So some of the questions we have are really designed by you. Most everything that we do, and you're going to see a lot of things that we provide at Gentian that are meant to be thinking points for yourself. They're decisions you can make and will make, but when you met us for your financial considerations about retirement, I'm sure you weren't thinking, oh, they're going to help me figure out where I'm going to live, right? It's probably not your first thought. But we view it as essential. Your finances are a resource to help you live the best life you can. These are important considerations. Right? Who here has a great idea of they want to live here and when that happens and how that happens, and they've got it all mapped out? Anybody? No hands went up. So the beautiful thing about this is here's an opportunity for us to explore this with other people who have been through it. There'll be people at your tables and panels and people up here who can help you ask the right questions. Because if you haven't been through it before, you don't even know what to ask. So a lot of what we'll do here is look at questions like, where will you live? Do you have a plan, and who knows about that plan, more important? What if you can't execute that plan? Is there somebody else who can? And then I've got younger. Anybody here responsible for their parents? Yes? So we've got this whole generation as well of boomers and X who have not, or they're preparing for their parents. And their parents haven't made the decisions. So they're trying to pull that out of them. My wife and I had some interesting discussions probably about 6 months ago with her parents. Affluent, great, but we had a discussion that was very serious. And her dad afterward came up to me and said, hey, thank you so much. I can't believe we hadn't talked about that before. But it was very important. He was very serious with it as well. Do your heirs know important documents and logins and where they are? Name one front of mind concern as you consider your options. So the question, the main thing today we're hoping is that you walk away with, let's actually, if you guys want to bring it up, it's even better. What's the one thing, anybody have an idea? What do you want to walk away today with? Is there a big question, a big thought, a big concern, a consideration, or you just want to learn? I heard learn. Thoughts?
Understanding what the path is and where to go.
Understanding what the path is and where to go. Excellent. This is a great step. We're going to have a lot of resources here today that will help you with that because it is very complex. There's a lot that goes with it. And talking about these kind of items is often not a lot of fun. So my mom and I have had conversations about this for her. She lives by herself. She's presently able to do so. But sometimes it's not just about being able to. She thrives in a community of people. You know, you ever met somebody like when they're around a bunch of people that just light up? But if you're at home all the time by yourself without anybody there, this is my grandfather. My grandfather was 88 years old, 87 years old, in his original house. And his wife, my grandmother, had passed away. Been living there himself. He'd gotten a cold that February, but it hit him in a different way. It really took him down a full notch, and he was no longer the vital person he was. So we didn't think he was going to last much past October of his 88th year. We moved him to a place called Bickford in Fort Dodge. He became the homecoming king. He became the Valentine's Day sweetheart. It was the funniest thing to see him with the crown on. And he became the official walker storer of all the women when they ate lunch and dinner. So he'd store the walkers, he'd get them, he'd bring them back. So what happened with him? He found purpose. And he found another vital 8 years. And we are grateful for the fact that they do what they do so that we had my grandfather for another 8 years. That just showed the difference of community versus isolation. So some of those are the big considerations as well. So as we go through today, we've got a lot of different panelists with great stories, some with great experience, but feel free to ask questions, and we're going to hold the questions. If you can, write them down by the speakers as we go through. Write your questions down. We won't have a ton of time for questions during it, because of the information we're going to provide, but we will have questions that we can answer and answers at the end. Also, we're going to have a lunch. The lunch is going to be called a working lunch. Does anybody know what that means? It means we've got a lot of stuff to do and we're going to eat while we're talking. So when we have that, we'll go down the line, grab your food, come in. There'll also be a break today at 11 o'clock too, so it'll be in about an hour and 15 minutes. So when we do that, we're going to bring you back in about 10 minutes. So feel free to talk, but I want to kind of give you a lay of the land. This will be action-packed. There's a lot going on. So a lot of different people with a lot of great information. I know I've said that 6 times, but I did it on purpose. Today, what I'd like to do is look at some of the different ideas here, and this is the way we look at it. Purpose versus equals longevity. So I find that when you know why you're here and what you're here for, people tend to live a much more vibrant life. A lot more clarity exists. So some of the things we do at Gentian, we look at what's more important than money. So I ask this question: what do you guys consider is more important than money? You can shout it out. Health, thank you. Yes, health. Family, thank you. Faith, excellent. Anyone else? Time, excellent. I've heard this before too, reputation, right? So when you're looking at these things that are more important than money, money is very important, but these are more important than money. How about the experiences that have made you who you are? Those are very important. For some of you, how about what you give back to the community? It's incredible. So we like to look at this matrix as money supports everything that is most important to you. So when we're talking about this, you'll see this from time to time with us. It's kind of a core planning program that we have as well. So as we go through the agenda, the discussion points, what should I consider? What are my options? Housing, retirement communities, care options. We can talk about some legal ramifications as well. We've got a great panel: lending, senior move specialists, Medicare. We've got actual people who give great stories about the different places that they moved and their transitions. So it's really going to be fantastic in that. What questions should I be asking when visiting a facility? We have somebody here to let us know those. My wife has a whole matrix she's putting together as well. How will I pay for this? What about insurance coverage? What does Medicare cover? How do I downsize after all these years and decumulate? That's a big question. Anybody have that as an issue? Yeah. Basements in Wisconsin. I have a friend who lived in I think it's Arizona, where they don't have basements, and they go, the nice thing about Arizona is we don't have basements. I'm like, well, why is that nice? Because we don't put all of our crap there. So they have a storage facility instead. Seriously, I was like, well, okay, yeah, it is true. You know it. So what estate planning considerations do I need to make? What resources should I consider? What resources exist is another one as well. And is there someone I can talk to who has done this recently? That'll be our Q&A panel today. So it's going to be wonderful. I think it'll be action-packed. I think from last year, the stories we have for you too, we can share a bit later. But there's people who have made massive changes in their life that I didn't expect. People before this used to do it, and we'd talk about it. Well, why'd you do that? I don't know, I just felt it was time. But from last time, when you saw options, now you know what path you can go down and what you can consider. When you don't know what there is even available, and you don't want to go look at this place, the old folks' homes that you used to see, Stony Brook, way up on a hill in a big building where nobody ever came out, is not what it is today. They are life care communities. They're vibrant. There are levels of care. There are no levels of care in some. There's some that are independent living, and you just live there simply, and you can transition as you go along. So we're going to talk about some of those ideas as we go as well. And then at noon, we'll have this working lunch for 10 minutes. We'll get lunch, we'll sit back down, we'll go through and get some of our considerations done as well. But what I want to do is some of the keynote speakers we have here. We have Julie Irvine from LifeSpace. We have Meredith Poe from Raymond James. You're going to see a wonderful panel of our Raymond James. There's a lot of back office, incredible resources at Raymond James. We've brought you several here today. You'll get to hear from them because they bring a wealth of knowledge. They study this, they live this. So they can be a great resource for you as well. It doesn't just have to be us. A lot of times you'll ask us the question, hey, Chris, Ken, what's going on with this? These are our experts. Let's ask that when it's a really deep question. So we want to rely on them as well. So as we go along, I want to bring that together. This guy over here, he's just a tall guy who put all this stuff together, that's all. This Chris Doty guy, so no worries about that. No, nothing special there. So what I want to do here is first begin to welcome our first speaker. If you were here last year, she probably could have spoke for like 2 hours. She's very entertaining. She's outstanding. She will give you candid statements as well. And Gail is a resident. She's a retired psychotherapist and clinical associate professor. So she's brilliant, by the way. It's a ton of fun. She's a resident at Newcastle for 7 years. She's also, her key interests are studying our second stage in life and ageism. Perfect for today, right? So we're going to bring up Gail. We'd love to have you come up here. And I will have to have you hold the mic if that's okay. Thanks, Gail. Awesome. Good.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be back here this year. And it's amazing. I do love studying this. So even if you heard me last year, I have progressed in how I keep thinking about this and all the examples. And living in community, you learn a lot. So I'm talking about living with purpose. And I want you to begin, if you're at an early stage, this is a marvelous time to think about how would you live with purpose. You're going to need to be self-compassionate during this time because you're going to discover through the ageist ideas that we hear that you've begun to think more negatively about this, and you're going to want to set that aside and instead do your thinking on what is it that would give me purpose in life. And again, alluding to things that have already been attachments. Some things I find helpful is to think about what things give you meaning. Is it power? Is it prestige? Is it pleasure? There's no right answer to that. But as you're sorting through and moving forward in your life at this time, sometimes it's helpful to look at it from that perspective. To trust, I think, the process, we can be happier and live a more purposeful life. Again, I allude to the ageism. I don't think I heard a researcher within the last year. I had always been concerned about the things we hear that are very ageist. Commercials, a lot of comedy is very ageist. And what this researcher was talking about was how we've incorporated that ageism, and we're not even aware that that's begun to affect our thinking. And to kind of take a look at that. All the research shows that we can live longer if we do a number of things. Intergenerational programs, I love that. I love people of all ages interacting. Mindfulness, we'll talk about a bit more. Change of environment, people tend to think that is a negative. I can tell you from experience it was very positive. Movement to keep ourselves physically fit, and family and friends. I was struck after I looked at the recent research about a book written some time ago, Living Fully and Dying Well. First of all, I thought, okay. But it was based on, when I now look at the research, he's talking about all these same things. Embrace change. And think about the freedom we have of getting older. I don't think there's enough stress of that. There's more a sense, we're burdened, ageism, you have to be really strong to get through this. And again, the socialism that we talked about, how important it is to be social. And what I love best, I think it's my favorite thing about this stage of life, is I find myself often reflecting on life experiences and reinterpreting them, if you will, or just feeling good feelings again. And that is highlighted more if you're very social. Like living in community, we get to know people and we all have these interesting stories. And I'm struck how often someone else's story triggers something in me later after dinner and go, you know what, Gail, you grew up doing this, and it brings back all those positive feelings, and I like that part. And then I also have become more wanting to look back at who mentored me. Who were the people that made me who I am as I look back? And you're going to say this sounds sad, but if I read their obituary, because if they were my mentors, they would have been older probably, and I tend to go to the funerals. I want to go tell those children an aspect of their parent that they may not have seen, but that was so instrumental to me. I think that's helpful. in a book called When Breath Becomes Air, I love this. Paul says, we are never so wise as when we live in the moment. You have to figure out what's important to you. Mindfulness has been a very important part of my process. I don't have time to share with you, but for years I have dealt with pain, chronic pain. And I got to meditation through trying to control my pain. So then when I would meditate, it was more my body and that whole thing. Now I'm at the point where my meditations are very different. One of the books I maybe refer to, I might take a word out of there, a sentence out of there. And that morning I may meditate, take some deep breaths, and then I'm thinking, how can what I just was thinking about make my day more important to me? And then often, before I go to bed, I'll go back and look at the word I wrote down. How did that influence? Was that helpful to me today? So often our thoughts are based either on the past, the present, and what you do with mindfulness is you're in the present. And that, I think, given where we're moving and thinking about for our life, the more we can be in the present, I think that in trying to make some of these decisions, it's very important. One of the books I read some time ago, in fact, at the start of this whole process, was a book called Falling Upward by Richard Rohr. I've probably never read anything that influenced me as much as this book. And because it helped me put it into some context he talks about 2 stages of life. And think about this as you move forward. The task of the first half of life is to create a proper container for one's life and answer the essential questions. So think about this in terms of your children and your grandchildren, the stage they're at. They're looking at what makes me significant, choosing careers, education, how can I support myself, and who's going to go on that journey with me. Whereas we're in the second half of life, and we're trying to bring a coherence to it. And yet at the same time, think about it, it turns to a certain simplicity, and we are somewhat relieved of the complexity that I watch younger people coming through life. So you have this opportunity to not be preoccupied with collecting more goods and services. And so my desire and effort is to pay back. And some of you referred to that, to give back to the world a bit of what I've received. And then I'll just tell you one short story. I hope I'm not going bad. I have to tell you, when anybody get the On Wisconsin alumni magazine that comes out from, okay, one person. I'm going through that a week ago, and I'm reading this quote. As you go through life, do not deprive yourself of the experience of joy. Spend your time with people who give you happiness. Stay as open to new experiences as you are today. Find satisfaction in small routines, the place where you live, community service, time outside in the natural world. Well, I'm already, as I get to the end, thinking, I can't wait to share this. And I think, oh, who said that? The Wall Street Journal columnist Jason Gay, who graduated in 1992. Well, if not just a few months ago, I wouldn't have known anything about Jason Gay. But I have to tell you a funny story living in community. So I love tennis. Everyone knows I love tennis. And so I'm always, if there's a good article on tennis, there's a gentleman who knows I really like it, and I don't get the Wall Street Journal, so he'll copy them and put them in my mailbox. Well, then occasionally he'd send me another sport. I said, you know, I'm getting interested in everything. My dad wouldn't believe it. I love listening, reading the ones about football. So that's how I got to know Jason Gay, was through, he's a sports writer. Now think about it. I was drawn to this quote, but he was addressing the young people just starting their careers. So then that kind of excited me. We are on that same journey, and some of it is the same, maybe for both of us. And this I'll close with. I think this just kind of represented to me, I think, what we're all struggling for. As I ask for loving companions on my journey, I am led heart to heart and hand to hand to a friendlier world. As I extend my heart and my hand, the world meets me with open arms. As I reach for my wisdom and my compassion to aid others, others respond to me in kind. I am not alone. I am not unseen, unheard, a stranger in the world. As I hold myself a friend among friends, friendship finds me. As I hold myself a lover of life, life responds to me with love. In all times of sorrow and anxiety, I comfort myself through comforting the world, through cherishing life. I allow life to cherish me. Thank you.
Well, welcome, by the way, everyone. I'm Julie Irvin. I've been in senior living for the last 10 years. Prior to that, I was my mother's caregiver, who was diagnosed with vascular dementia. She lived in upstate New York. As a widow, I lived here in Mequon. So for 10 years, I had to navigate that journey of how to pack up my mother, move her here to live with us. How many of you want to live with your kids? Should have known. No. Should have known. To live with us. Well, I tried to navigate that journey back in the early 2000s, so I became a caregiver. Because of that, I found my way into senior living because of my heart, because of that journey. And so what I do here today is I'm here to educate. Yes, I am a sales director. I work at Newcastle Place, and I've been there for 10 years. But I think I have a couple of people in the room that came to me after this event last year, and we sat and we educated. And they learned a lot about, do I want to make a move and move into a neighborhood, a senior living neighborhood? Because I don't want to move into a facility. How many of you love facilities? I think of it as nursing home. I want to move to a neighborhood. So what is it about these senior living communities that you're seeing being built up all around us? All of a sudden, there's a new one popping up down the street, or there's many that are out there. So my job right now is to educate you. So today I'd like to talk to you about understanding contracts. What are those fees that come in communities? Why are they asking for me to pay those fees? What does it cover? What type of questions do I need to ask? What do I really need to look for in a community? How do I go through the discovery period? I have Sue here and her lovely husband, Ken, and what did they do to go through a discovery period to find out where was the place they want to live and how to be prepared? So we hear about different types of communities, and I just want to give this to you as an overview. Types and transparencies. There are rental communities. How many of you have ever rented an apartment? Okay. It's no different. You're going to pay a rent, you're going to live in there, you're going to get some services. That's a rental community. There's no entrance fee, and we're going to talk about what an entrance fee is. Versus a life plan community, which is an entrance fee community. And I love this acronym. It's called CCC. CCRC, Continuum Care Retirement Communities. I should call them fun communities because they are, aren't they? So what's the difference? Well, for this group, probably you would never come apart or never have this happen to you, but rental communities aren't a home for the rest of your life. They only provide you with services independently if you need more assistance and memory care. That's all they can do. They don't have skilled care. They certainly don't have on-site rehab. If for any reason you ran out of assets to continue to pay to live in assisted living, we've all heard, and we'll hear more about it, Medicaid. So you would have to move out of that community, possibly, to move to a community that would be able to provide you with Medicaid services. A life plan community provides you with a plan for the rest of your life. And I'm going to write, you can write this down. No matter what happens to you cognitively, physically, or financially. So what is it? You pay a one-time entrance fee that has an element of refundability that goes back to your heirs. How many of you would like to make sure that your heirs, your grandchildren, I heard all these great stories, your grandbabies, your church, where you truly want to give your money to, how many of you would love to know that that money is going to go where you want it to go? I know I do. So the money that you pay on an entrance fee, there's a refundability that goes back to your heirs and goes back to your estate. The second part of that entrance fee is it holds a place for you to have higher levels of care when and if you ever need it. It provides you with the resources if for any reason you were to run out of money to pay to live in a community like Newcastle Place, where Gail lives, so that you can dip into that entrance fee and continue to live there. My oldest resident is 107. I have to ask you, have we planned for people to live to 107? Good question. Ask yourself. We are living longer. There is something in this water, by the way, that makes you live longer. And then the third part of an entrance fee is what happens if you run out of all your money? There's a benevolent fund that keeps the resident there, even if they were in full long-term care, which you and I all know is nursing home. So that's what an entrance fee does. It guarantees you a home for the rest of your life, no matter what happens to you. I call that a great sense of security. So there's tax considerations when you look at communities that are called CCRCs or life plan communities. The tax considerations are this. There is a portion of your entrance fee that you can claim as a medical deduction. Now for us, our community, last year they got the letter, I think it was 22% of their entrance fee and 22% of their monthly service fee has a medical health benefit. I am not an accountant, but I think if you tend to itemize, you need to know there is a tax consideration. But let's say you love your house so much you're not going to move to a community like an entry fee community. You want to wait until you need assistance in assisted living. Or cognitively, sadly, like my mother, she needed to move to a memory support community. There's tax considerations for an assisted living, for a memory support. 100% of what you pay in is looked at as a health care benefit. So talk to your financial advisor about that. Let's see. Monthly fees. Monthly fees, I'm a big proponent of asking for the contracts when you come and visit. But monthly fees, what does it cover? It should cover everything. Does it cover portions? Does it cover meals? What does it cover? You need to know what you're paying for on a monthly basis. So you pay a one-time entrance fee, and then you pay a monthly service fee. How do you budget your costs and annual increases? So today, who's ready to move? I have to wear a t-shirt one of these days that says, I'm not ready yet. Ready is a decision, by the way. I'm not ready yet. So how do I budget for my future? Well, I would encourage you, and we're going to talk a little bit about visiting communities, but what I would encourage you to do is make sure that you add, if you came to a community and you saw that their monthly service fees were $5,000 all-inclusive, make sure you add 5% annually, on average, to an entrance fee and to a monthly service fee. So you can budget for your future. Might not be today, but it might be tomorrow. I always have to tell you that. I like that part. We already talked about tax considerations, and here's the big deal. Why be on a wait list? Do you know the oldest baby boomer will be turning 80 years old? I'm part of that generation. I'm not 80 yet, but I'm close. Well, maybe not. But I'm part of that generation. We're the largest generation. What do you think's happening? People are moving. Do you know we're 500,000 units, apartments, homes, short of being able to help and support those looking for senior living? Our Gen Xers are next. So if you think about this, there isn't enough being built to support the need of our future. So you're going to start looking at communities now, because I'm not ready yet, right? And get on a wait list. Wait lists are so important because you might not be ready today. What if something changes to your health tomorrow? If you can't get in, where are you going to go? So be smart, talk when you want to make your plan, talk about being on a wait list. So what to look for when you walk through the door. How many of you, and I asked this last year, have actually come to a community or looked at a retirement community? Just raise your hands, how many? Okay, some of you have. How many of you are a little bit nervous about putting that toe in the water? Yeah, thank you. I would be too. Again, my job is to educate. You don't want to feel like you're being sold. So, what do you look for if you're ready to start looking and preparing for your future? Take a look at the years of service. How many years has this company been in business? How many years has the community serviced its residents? Resident satisfaction. Every community surveys its residents to find out how satisfied they are with food, with entertainment, with the management, with communication. Every community will have a satisfaction survey. That should be a priority on your list. If they're happy, wouldn't you think you'd be happy? Options to meet your needs. Gail loves tennis. We don't have a tennis court, but Gail loves tennis. She has things that she loves to do. Sue loves to swim. I found that out about Sue last year. She loves to swim. Do they have a pool? Is that important to her? Is that important to you? What amenities are important to you? What aren't? For the future, we can all drive. We all drove here. Most of us did. Do they have transportation? Will they take me places that I need to go? What's their dining like? I will encourage you, dine first before you sign on the dotted line. Make sure you like the food. Food's very important to all of us. Make sure you like the food. What type of activities do they have? So that's what you want to look for. Actually, I'm going to jump over to how to look for it. Before you choose to visit, I've had a lot of people walk in and they just walk in the door, and that's great, and I'd love to be able to give them a lot of my time, or I have an associate that does too, but I'm going to encourage you, make an appointment so that I can focus. I usually take up to 2 hours. You're going to think, wow, that's a lot of time. But to really focus on what is it you're looking for, what's your needs. Let's take a look at the community. So before you walk through that door, go to the community website. Do they have the swimming pool? Do they have the activities? Does it look vibrant? Is it kind of what you're looking for? Then pick up the phone and make an appointment. Know what the qualifications are to move in. They will ask no matter if you're looking at waiting for assisted living, you're not going to move to independent, you're going to stay in your house until you need assistance, and then you'll move. What are the qualifications? It will always be financial, and it'll be health. Here's the problem. I hear this all the time. I will wait until something happens. I hear this. I'll wait to come and move into your community, Julie, when something happens. I'm healthy today. If something happens, you've waited too long. Just hear my heart on that. My mom, she waited way too long. Something happened, there were no choices besides live with me and then move. So what are the qualifications to move in? They're always financial, they're always health. Know your financial situation. Chris will be the one to talk to about that. Be open to, in your discussion about what's important to you. What is important to you? You're looking at possibly moving out of your home sometime in the future. What's important to you? Will your family be involved in your future plans? Gail and I were talking about this, and we hear this all the time. My kids made me move. You know, my kids, they made me move. You want to make sure your kids are involved in some of this. Maybe some of you don't. That's okay. And I'm going to stress this over and over and over again. Ask for the contract. If they don't give you the contract when you're sitting there, ask for it. And they say, oh, we'll get that to you, or no, we don't give out contracts unless you want to move here. Red flag. Because I'm the type of person, and you're the type of person, I want to read the fine print. I want to know what's not included. The salesperson can paint this beautiful picture for you. I want to know what's not included. Ask for the contract. And today, ask for the waitlist contract. So two good pieces of advice. And how to be prepared. When you sit in front of me, when you sit in front of others, tell them what you want. If all they're doing is showing you real estate, like, oh, isn't this a pretty 2-bedroom with blah, blah, blah. Tell them what you want. What's important to you? What are your interests? I want to know. I found out about Sue. She loves to swim. Great. I want to know about your hobbies. You like Gail's hobbies. I'd like to know, what do you need? What's important to you? What's your expectations of your new home? I get this all the time. Julie, I want a 2-bedroom. I want it facing south. I want it on the first floor. Okay. Anything else? Is there any other option you might consider if I couldn't get that for you? And then I have to ask you, what's your time frame? What's your time frame? And then ask, I don't know, and some of you will be chatting about it, can I have a trial stay? Can I put my toe in the water and see if I like it? Do I like the people who live here? Does it feel good to me? I just think that is so important in your discovery period, is to go and to try it. As my mother would say, try before you buy. How am I doing on time?
Good.
Okay, good. I might give you back an extra 10 minutes. He can handle it. I was asked a little bit about this, and I will bring it up. There are for-profit companies, and there are not-for-profit companies. So I'm just going to tell you the story of the company and the community I know, okay? And I'll let you make that decision of where you want to look. So the community that I am the sales director for, which is Newcastle, which is up the street, started out as the Protestant Home. It was a not-for-profit. They decided to build out here 23 years ago. They wanted to have a full continuum of care community, to have everything underneath one roof to service our area. Great. 2008 came. The real estate market did this. They built the Protestant Home had just finished building another building, and they couldn't fill it. So red tape was happening, as I call it. They were losing money. So in 2013, they put Newcastle Place up for sale. A for-profit company came in and purchased us. For-profit means there's a bunch of people on the board of directors, there's a bunch of people who want the money that's coming in the door and aren't willing to reinvest it back in that community. So we were underneath a group from 2013 till 2020 that was a for-profit community. A lot of sales, a lot of directors, a lot of management, heavy management, not a lot of resources that were coming back into our community to continue to make it look pretty. And if you walk through the doors today, you'll see that it's the same brown that it's been for 23 years. In comes a new company because they decided to put us up for sale. The for-profit put us up for sale. 4 years ago, we were bought by a not-for-profit. Hallelujah. This year, we're doing a $10 million renovation to our community. The monies that have come in will continue to be reinvested back in our community. I don't have as many managers and directors. I can pick up the phone anytime I want to talk to my CEO, my CFO, my COO. It's wonderful. It really is wonderful. It's well managed. They're not selling us. It's stable. We're adding an additional $14 million to build more homes and expand. So when I look at it from my lens, and I'm just going to tell you, this is my lens, I want to look at how are they reinvesting back in my community? Are my residents happy? Should I be looking, are they a profit or a not-for-profit? I worry about when they are a for-profit, how often will I be sold? And how many of you have heard the stories of the communities that have gone under? You know, the lady in New York City, I don't know if any of you heard, because I know you're not supposed to read the news.
Right.
But there was a lady in New York City, she just put $1 million down for her home, and all of a sudden the company went under, and she's not going to get her money back. That's where you need to look. For a not-for-profit, you can look at their monies, you can ask for their financials. That's very important for you to know. Look at their occupancy. Around here, I can tell you the other CCRCs that are like us, they are highly occupied. They are well in excess of 90% occupancy. You have to ask them what's your break-even point. Most communities, if they're under 80%, they're losing money. You want to look for communities that are highly occupied. That's why the wait list is so important to you. Because you want to make sure they're well run, they have the finances to maintain and continue, they reinvest in their clientele, they reinvest in their communities. Mm-hmm. So that's my best piece of advice for you. In closing, because I think we're at that point, in closing, I like to be an educator. And I have a booklet out there, it's Life Plan 101, it's Senior Living 101, whatever you'd like to call it. My number's on it. And I know soon Ken will talk about this, but I'd be more than happy to come. If you're afraid to walk through the door, I'd be more than happy to come and meet you here with Chris. I'd be more than happy to come to your home and just sit and lay out the whole landscape and educate you. There's nothing that you need to do. There's no fee involved here, but I wished back in 2004, when my mom got the diagnosis, somebody would have taken the time to educate me. I probably wouldn't have made as many mistakes as I did. And I probably, she probably would have, well, we won't go there. But anyway, I just want to offer you, I put my number there, please don't hesitate to call. And it's just like, you know what, Julie, I don't feel comfortable coming to Newcastle Place, or I live in Green Bay, or wherever you live. Could you come to me? I'd be happy to. Or I want to meet with Chris and you. Can we just really have an open discussion about this? Again, because who's ready yet? No one. So start planning for your future is the best I can tell you. So thank you very much.
So I'm going to be talking about these points, and especially emphasizing one that talks about long-term care and Medicare. But the first one is, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, what is this cost? So there is a sheet, all it does is have numbers on it, and it looks a little confusing in the beginning, but I'll just go through a couple points to show what the cost is, because it's not the same for everybody. The vast majority of people on Medicare, 93%, this year pay $185 a month for their Medicare Part B. That's the outpatient side of Medicare. Doctor visits, tests, day surgeries, ambulance, physical therapy. That all falls under Part B of Medicare. Part A of Medicare, the hospital side, inpatient side, you don't pay for as long as you or a spouse work 10 years. You put your 40 quarters of work in. So if you look at the chart, let's just look at married filing jointly, for example, the top number. As soon as a married, yes, that's it. As soon as a married couple makes over $212,000 of what's called modified adjusted gross income, you have to pay more for Medicare. If you're between $212,000 and $266,000, you pay $259 a month instead. And if you have a drug plan, you can see in the far right column, they add another $13.70 a month onto your drug plan premium. This is something called IRMA, and maybe some of you in this setting are familiar with IRMA. In our firm, we probably see it double the national average. A week doesn't go by without somebody asking about this extra charge for Medicare. IRMA stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. It started in 2007. It's a way to keep Medicare solvent. So you can see as your income goes up, you pay more for Medicare. We do have some clients that are over the $750,000 income threshold, and they're actually paying $628.90 a month for Medicare Part B. And then you can see $85.80 gets added on to their drug plan. Even if they take a zero premium drug plan, you still get zapped by that IRMA charge. And people say, well, what can we do about this IRMA? I'm not earning as much money in retirement as I was. Well, it's a very successful appeal process, highly successful if you have a qualifying event. There's marriage, there's death, there's divorce, but the one we run into all the time is retirement or a reduction of hours. If somebody's income is going to go down, you can contact Social Security, and there's a form, SSA 44, that you can fill out and turn back into the Social Security office, and it's about your anticipated expected income going forward, not what you made in the past, because they do look back 2 years. So for 2026 next year, they're actually looking at your 2024 income. I've had clients drop 2, 3, 4 brackets when they retired, when one spouse retired, or when they both retired. If they didn't start turning on pensions or taking IRA distributions, their income was lower, and they were able to appeal that through Social Security. And the answer usually is yes, we'll drop your Part B premium. And then there's a Part D surcharge as well that gets dropped in addition. This is looked at every year. The government has your tax records, so they can tell you what they think you're going to pay, and you can either agree with that, and that Part B premium comes out of your Social Security. If you're not collecting Social Security yet, you get billed. You can pay it on a quarterly basis, or it can come out of a checking deduction of a checking account until you do get your first Social Security check. The very month you get your first Social Security deposit, that Part B premium will come out automatically. So Social Security is the area to work with. You can also talk to a tax person or your financial person. Financial people, especially at Gentin here, we know they're very creative where to take money from to minimize your expenses. They do it on the under 65 market for people who need marketplace insurance all the time. I've worked with Ken a lot on this, and they are great at helping people save money. So if it means not taking your Social Security yet, but you're going to save $500 a month on your health insurance, it makes a lot of sense. Same thing with Medicare, although you do get to make a little bit more money and still not have to pay the surcharge. But if you work with Chris and Ken and the other advisors, they will help you see what the thresholds are, and they do change every year. This is this year's numbers. The new numbers are not out quite yet for 2026. But it can be very helpful. It can save hundreds of dollars a month. If it's a married couple, it can save thousands of dollars a year. So very important to look at this modified adjusted gross income. And the last point I'll touch on about this is what do they consider modified adjusted gross income? Well, it's wages, salaries, taxable interest, dividends, capital gains, taxable IRA distributions, Social Security, and rental income. Those are all things that get factored into your modified adjusted gross income. And again, they look at it every year, the government does, and they tell you what your Part B premium is going to pay in January. Every year you get a letter. I will be here after, as long as necessary, to take questions on this and the other topics I'll be touching on. The second topic is, it may not apply to a lot of people in this room, but it's low income subsidy. So you may know somebody that could be using this, and it can be very beneficial, especially with the high cost of prescription drugs. People are eligible for low income subsidy, or otherwise known as extra help. This is the form that says Medicare.gov on it. The source is Medicare's website. So if you know someone that has low income and low assets, they may be above the Medicaid threshold, Title 19, but they still might need help with these prescription drug costs. You can apply through the Social Security office or State Health Insurance Assistance Program called SHIP. So there are resources. A lot of people are eligible for this. They don't even know it. So always have someone that can take them or call with them to Social Security or the SHIP phone number and apply for extra help. If somebody is already getting Medicaid Title 19, then they automatically qualify for this extra help. You can see on the last page what the income parameters are to qualify. So an individual, if they're below $23,475 of income and their assets are under $17,600, they will qualify. That's this year's numbers. Married couple gets to make a little bit more money, but it's always good to check and see if you're eligible. You may be eligible for other programs too that you had no idea of. This could be a great benefit. We've had some clients that fit into this bracket, and they call us and say, now I can afford my prescriptions because they're $2 or $3 thanks to the assistance. So that's all I'll touch on about the extra help. The third topic for today is, and there's a sheet on this that says Medicare and nursing home at the top. Many people are not aware when they come on to Medicare that while Medicare does a phenomenal job with hospital coverage, and so do Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage plans, Medicare does not pay long-term care. If a person's in a facility and they're not making progress, it's not covered. What does Medicare actually cover? They cover short-term skilled care, otherwise known as rehab care. So if a person is in the hospital for a hip or knee replacement or a stroke or a bad fall, and they're let out of the hospital, they may go right to the facility. My father had 2 experiences with this in his lifetime, and the first time was due to a fall, and I got a call at work that he was in the emergency room. He luckily had one of those help buttons on his chest there that he wore, and thankfully he used that. They came right away. The ambulance took him to the emergency room, to the hospital, and then was there for about 6 days, and then to the long-term care, or the skilled care facility. When he was there, he got physical therapy, occupational therapy, even some speech therapy. And I'll tell you that he started out in a wheelchair. Through the therapy, he advanced to the walker, and then continuing on, didn't need the walker after a while. So the tremendous progression in a short period of time. He suffered from anxiety, so the therapist did help tremendously with the confidence. He had the confidence because of that therapy to get from the wheelchair to the walker to walking on his own power. Pretty incredible experience. So This facility was particularly excellent. My brother and I were constantly going there, visiting, and we both observed that he was getting great care. And but the thing is, it's not going to last. Medicare only pays as long as you're making progress. You have to be demonstrating improvement, and the most you'll get is 100 days. And very few people realize that full 100 days, because along the way, it's determined that maybe you stop progressing. It could happen after day 30 or 40. If that happens, Medicare stops right then and there, and so do any supplements or Medicare Advantage plans as well. So the bottom line takeaway today is none of them pay long-term care. Somebody with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's, crippling arthritis, if a person's condition is going downward, that's long-term custodial care. And Medicare can't afford to pay these outrageously expensive bills for 4, 5, 6 years, which some of these stays can be. So just wanted to, and I'll talk about this after staying for questions, but the big takeaway is that please do not rely on Medicare for long-term care expenses. My father had a second stint in the facility. This time it was double pneumonia, and ended up at the hospital first. From the hospital, released right to the facility. Again, got very good care. I got to say we were very fortunate and impressed and frankly surprised how good the care was. And I can talk about the facilities afterwards too. But his assisted living place was also a very solid place to live, good food. And there he also received physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and again, using a wheelchair because of his anxiety, was able to move on his own power with the walker. And his last few years, he relied pretty exclusively on the walker. But had that confidence, and I don't know what would have happened if he didn't have that experience at the skilled care facility and then the care in home after that. Luckily, he had long-term care insurance, which is one answer, and you could talk to the folks at Gentian about that, and that paid every dime of his stay, which helped out tremendously. Because of that, he was able to gift money to his 3 grandchildren, and it's actually going right now to pay for my $2 in college. You know, I'm paying some of it, but his legacy, as he passed away last year, is paying some of it as well. So tremendous thing to think about is even though he's passed, he's still helping out. Tremendous memories and a legacy. You do need a 3-day hospital stay first before being able to go to the facility if you have original Medicare and a supplement. So you have that 3 or 4, 10-day stay, whatever it ends up being. You have to enter the facility within 30 days. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you don't have the 3-day stay requirement. That is waived. So a person could have a one-night stay in a hospital, go to a facility immediately, and the coverage would start. Typically, the first 20 days is covered 100%. After day 20, there starts a coinsurance. With Medicare and a supplement, you'd pay nothing. With Medicare Advantage, you usually have a copay. It's around $200 a day, and typically days 21 through 100. But again, if Medicare says you're not showing progress, that does cease to be paid any further. So other options are Medicaid, long-term care, private pay. Those are really the bottom line. Rearranging assets, that's sometimes necessary, but you always should talk to your financial person and your tax person and learn about what you can do to protect yourself as good as you can. The final thing I'll talk about today is something big happened this year with Medicare prescription drugs. So if anybody has a drug program that they have along with their supplement, or they have a Medicare Advantage plan where the drugs are built into the coverage, you may have been familiar all these years with this Medicare gap, otherwise known as the donut hole. Everybody knows what the donut hole was. So the donut hole was a period of time where you used up your allowance for prescriptions. If somebody was taking Eliquis alone, the blood thinner, or Ozempic, one drug would get you into that donut hole before the end of the year. And so what happened was you lost your copay and you ended up paying 1% of the drug. So people would go from paying $45 copay to $250, and that's one drug alone. And this would go on until the end of the year. Well, this year, because of the Inflation Reduction Act, the donut hole is officially closed. And some of you may have already experienced, you hit that threshold, the rest of the year, you're not paying anything for your prescriptions. A person could have a cancer drug that's $15,000 a month, and they are that expensive. You could pay the $2,000 in January and be done for the year, even if you have 10 medications. The next year's figure is going to be $2,100. So 2026, instead of $2,000, it's going up $100. But again, the donut hole that you've heard about all these years is finally technically gone. And a lot of people are celebrating that because of these high drug costs that are out there. Some of these diabetes drugs that are not insulin, insulins are capped at $35, but some of these other diabetes drugs, Mounjaro, Ozempic, are $1,000, $1,500 a month. That's the retail cost. Trulicity, she's going up, yes, quite expensive. As long as the drug is covered on the formulary, then it applies to that $2,000 max out of pocket. Last year, there was a $3,300 cap, and people were calling us saying, hey, I'm not paying for my drugs anymore. This year it got down to $2,000, and just wanted to pass that along in case people weren't aware. But I will be staying afterwards for questions and be glad to talk to all of you. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Again, I'm a banking consultant for Raymond James Bank. I have my partner that Chris had mentioned. Behi, stand up, would you? Behi Bashara. Behi will be taking over the Wisconsin market for me and working with the Gentian group going forward. I cover Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Wisconsin, about 1,400 fine advisors like these women and gentlemen are, and glad to work with them. I want to talk about something that's a little different, a little different than what we've been discussing earlier today, and that's focusing on the living choices as we mature, but do that by way of some great lending solutions that we have, some different programs that we have in place. And I'm going to talk in general because you may bank outside of or have assets outside of Gentian. Do you allow that? No. All right, never mind. But I'll talk in general because you could have an outside bank that you work with. So I'll tell you about some of the programs we have, the specifics to our programs, and your bank may have something different or a different guideline or a different program that's out there and available. But overall, it's going to be based on two main factors. Avoiding taxes, right, if you possibly can, but also strength and growth through staying invested. And you're going to see that as kind of a common theme, and I'll be potentially repeating it within some of those different concepts and some of the different programs. But what we'll talk about here is security-based lines of credit. I guess it's up here. We're kind of going to go out of order here a little bit. Pledged security mortgage and non-occupant co-borrower, along with a little twist with asset-based income model. You've all built that equity in your home. You've all established those assets that you have from an investment perspective. So these programs help you take advantage of that and keep you in place, like I said, meeting your financial need without disrupting your investment strategy and long-term strategy going forward. So the private client banking group at Raymond James, we really have like four key factors that we work with. It's the security-based lines of credit, which we'll talk about. Tailored lending, which is probably geared more towards business owners think of it like a security-based line of credit on the steroids, if you will, large loans. It's kind of in place of doing a commercial loan, if you will. We're not going to talk about that today. Fixed rate hedging solutions. So what that is these security-based lines of credit are a variable rate option. What if we want to offset that with a fixed solution? Again, I'm just teasing on that. We're not going to talk about that today either. And then finally, mortgage lending and the different programs from mortgage lending that we do offer, and really generational programs. It could be you getting into a potential second home. It could be you assisting a child or a grandchild and them getting approved for a loan as well. So let's jump into security-based lines of credit, security-based lending. Anybody have an idea on what that is? Anybody have one in place right now? You do, all right. So we've got at least one, I think maybe a couple. What that is it's non-retirement assets, non-annuity assets, and it's the taxable assets you have, your investment assets that you have that you pledge on behalf of establishing a line of credit. And we'll go through kind of the steps of it or the process of it, but to give you some of the specifics. And again, this could be different from every institution that you work with. $100,000 line of credit usually is kind of a minimum. As we talked about, non-annuity, non-IRA assets, taxable assets. It's a simple transaction, no qualifications, no financial approval involved because we are placing a lien on these assets that are sitting in-house. The pricing is based on usually where the approved credit limit is, plus secured overnight financing rate and credit spread adjustment. We won't get into all those details, but you just call it today somewhere around 8%, just to simplify that math and that idea. And with it being a variable rate product, we want to use it as a short-term solution, right? This isn't your long-term solution going forward. We can offset that with what we'll talk about, some of the different mortgages and different programs that are out there. The key benefits that we have, and I would think other institutions have, is no cost to set up. It's simple. You basically sign a form. Did you experience that as well? You basically sign a form, and it can be established within 2 to 5 days. It's that simple. And what we do is we look at as a quick turnaround time, we're able to look at the assets and say, are these eligible assets? And then advance a certain percentage of those assets. Let's say, use an example of, say you were 100% equities, we would advance about 65% of that. So we don't need to pull a credit report. We don't need to have a financial approval. We just need to make sure that if there was a market correction, that we're in a position to where last thing we want to do is to force you to have to liquidate to pay down the lien, but we want to make sure that we're in a comfortable position for both you and the firm that we're able to do so if we needed to. Something I did bring up is we do not pull a credit report, and that's important. Whether it's another institution that you're working with or us, there's no what they call a soft pull. There's no hard hit to your credit. There's no inquiry that shows up. Anybody heard the term trigger lead? That was in working with the Fed. Trigger lead basically was as soon as somebody did an inquiry on your credit report, that opened up the ability for anybody to start soliciting you and receiving your information and going after you in terms of, hey, let's solicit some more business. Well, we just had, Trump just signed off the trigger lead to stop it. So I think it's about a 6-month period before it'll go away, but hopefully it'll go away from that point forward. And that's everything. But that's important. Those inquiries don't show up. And then no future reporting. And what are people using it for? Well, having liquidity is big, just to have that excess liquidity that you want to have out there in case anything, life happens, right? Anything pops up. We'll talk a little bit about 2 big purposes of it, but one of them is purchasing a home. What if you want to buy that next home prior to selling your existing home? What if you want to buy that second home, maybe another vacation home, and you haven't sold your existing home? This gives you the ability to do that. Talking about tax obligations, the other one, and this is because our home base is in Florida, is emergencies, right? Anything can happen. Hurricanes, obviously, down there in Florida. The Midwest here, we can have tornadoes, fires. Obviously, flooding isn't as bad, but it could be there. That gives you the ability to take care of your life, right? Rental cars, if your car gets flooded out, or, hey, I have to move into a new place temporarily. You have the ability to do that, not waiting for the insurance company. And nothing against insurance, Mike, don't get me wrong. But nothing against the insurance company, but you don't have to wait for the insurance company. Last thing I'll touch on this, on security-based lending, is what I call timing versus timing the market. So if you, in 2023, took out, let's just say, $1 million line of credit, and you said, hey, I'm going to pay off that $1 million line of credit, so I'm going to pull money out of my investments and pay that line off, you would have saved $220,000 of interest savings. But what happened between 2023 and today? You would have missed out on $380,000 of appreciation and gain on those assets. So it's huge. It's saying, hey, let's not time the market, or let's look at it as time in the market. So what this does is, this program does is gives you the ability to say, hey, look, I think we want to take out this line of credit, so let's potentially, is that a bad word, liquidate? Let's liquidate a little bit and pay down that line of credit. Or you can keep it out there. If you're doing well and your returns are doing well, then why not keep it out there? If you're paying, like I mentioned before, 8%, and your return is whatever the average is, 10%, 11, 12%, even if it is just 8%, you're offsetting that cost of funds. I talked about using the security-based line of credit to purchase a home. We have a program, and your lender may have a program called a technical refinance. And what that is a true mortgage. So, like I said, an SBL is a short-term solution, right? So take it out with a long-term solution that you can lock in a rate, put a rate in place if you're going to have it for a period of 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And that's where the technical refinance would come into play. And we offer, and your institution may offer this as well, is the ability to take out that security-based line of credit after you've purchased that home, after you've received title to that property, and do a refinance, but they will treat it as a purchase. So if there's new purchase discounts, loan to value might be different, underwriting is looked at differently, but they treat it as a purchase. And you would fix that rate. So let's say, for example, you took the security-based line of credit and you said, hey, I want to fix this rate for 5 years or 7 years or what have you, whatever the budget is that you're going to pay that back or pay that down. That gives you that ability to do that, so you're not up against, oh, what if the rates go up in the future with the secured SOFR, with the secured overnight financing rate. Quick note on that as well is the economists say that rates are going down. Everybody kind of feel that rates are going down, I think, I hope, we hope. That's the future. The thought is that rates will be coming down in the future. So even if you have a security-based line of credit, now again, if your long-term goal is, I want to lock this in for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, that's another thing. But if you feel that rates are coming down, it's not a bad deal. I mean, I've been doing this for 33 years from a lending perspective, and I'll say that there are some people that really won when they said, hey, I want to do a security-based line of credit like 10 years ago and pay for this home, whatever the case is, and then maybe I'll refinance and lock the rate up. Well, they sat there on a rate that was 3%, less than 3% on the security-based line of credit for 5 years, 6 years, and then the interest rates dropped down, and then they locked into a 30-year fixed at 3%. So that was pretty darn good use of their money. It gave them ability to do that. Pledge security mortgages, I'll touch on that. Basically, again, like we had talked about, having the ability to stay invested, stay in the market, and finance up to 100% of the sales price of a home. You pledge your assets. You buy the home, we place a lien on the home, just like any mortgage would be, but instead of you liquidating, getting out of the market, potentially having a tax consequence, potentially losing that opportunity to stay in the market, you utilize the bank's money for the full purchase price of a home. And I'll go through like kind of a detail of that. The important part of it is there's normally when you finance over, we'll call it a standard of 80% loan to value, you would run into private mortgage insurance. It's roughly like about 0.5% that would add to the rate. Well, there's no PMI. You're pledging those assets. We keep those in place. They're offered on adjustable rate mortgages, portfolio loans out there in the marketplace is usually the case. They should charge you no additional fees or costs because of that. Thank you. And then you can do a third-party pledge. So if you get into a situation where an adult child, your child specifically, the grandchild, you want to pledge your assets on their behalf, you can do that. I'll give you kind of a quick example, and Ashley's moving me along, so I'll move on to the next topic. But quick example would be buying a $500,000 house. What would your normal down payment be if it was an 80% loan to value? 20% down would be $100,000 down. So that means you would take $100,000 out of the marketplace. Let's call it a return of, let's say, 8% on your investments. And let's call it a cost of 6% on the mortgage. If you think about it, what you would do is set aside that $100,000 for pledge, finance the full $500,000. What you've done is you're paying for that $100,000, you're paying that 6% mortgage rate. If you compare that to the return you'd be getting with that $100,000 in the marketplace of 8%. So you're offsetting your costs and you're actually improving it. So hopefully everybody got, that was a quick example of it, but hopefully everybody got that. Non-occupant co-borrowers and the asset-based income model, we'll just touch on really quick. Non-occupant co-borrowers, it's like a co-signing program. You have the ability to co-sign for, again, your adult children, your grandchildren. The alert is what? It's going on your credit report too, so let's be careful with that, right? Have faith in your children or grandchildren that they're going to make the payments. But it gives you the ability to do that where they may not have, with the cost of housing being up 20 to 22% year after year nationwide with higher home prices, higher interest rate costs, they might not have the ability to get approved for a loan, but you could step in and act as the non-occupant co-borrower. The difference is from the old Fannie Mae programs and the Freddie Mac programs, they had to qualify within 15% of the standard ratio guideline. In this case, you wouldn't do it if they didn't make any money, but in this case, the adult child or grandchild, they do not have to meet those guidelines. They don't have to make any money at all. You basically could sign on their behalf. Last thing I'll touch on real quick is the asset-based income model. And what that is using your assets for approval without taking distributions. And again, you're avoiding taxes, avoiding getting out of the marketplace. And what we'll do is we look at your assets, and let's say somebody doesn't qualify. It could be, again, a adult child or the grandchild might not qualify. And you say, we want to use these assets and sign in on that contract, on that note to get them approved. You're able to do that with the assets that we have in-house. We had one just recently where a young lady wanted to live near her grandchildren. She had a primary home, she had a second home, and now this is going to be her third home. Well, she has assets with Raymond James, she has Social Security, and she has a pension. But now if you added 3 properties in there, she wasn't going to qualify. And the last thing I want to do is just tell somebody that they can't go hang out with their grandchildren. And so what we did was we looked at an asset-based income model where we took her assets without any distribution, and we said, and to give you an idea, it's about $8,000 a month of paper income per $1 million of assets. I can put that into a number. And we said, in her case, she had like 1.2 million with us, so we were able to give her an additional $10,000 on her income when we did the underwriting and get her approved and get her into that new purchase.
So great to be here. I really appreciate being included. I really enjoy speaking about this topic. Just to give you a little bit of background, I have been with Raymond James Trust for 7 years. And as Chris said, I am not an attorney, but I do have a ton of experience in this field, mostly looking at it from an administrative perspective, which is how I'm always going to talk about it with you. But my role is to meet with clients and educate them, look at their current plans, see where there might be some gaps or things that we need to tweak, answer questions. My job is essentially to get you ready to go to the attorney and to give you a lot of knowledge and confidence around this complicated subject so that you feel good when you go in to either start the documents from scratch and you maybe don't have anything, or you have a plan but we need to make some updates and changes. So that's my ability and resource to talk through with you. So hopefully everyone here has some sort of estate plan. Raise of hands. Yes, great. How many of them are more than 5 years old? A few. Okay. So this is what I see a lot, and what I will encourage you, I know there's a lot of different things on the screen here, and all of them are very important, but I don't want you to be overwhelmed thinking, wow, I'm going to have to do all of these different pieces. This is all something your attorney should put together for you. So any of you that have gone through that initial estate planning assessment with them, there's usually a package that they're putting together for you that include the majority of these documents. Because everyone is going to need the basics, right? We all need a durable financial power of attorney. That is to protect you in the event something happens to you and you're not able to make those financial decisions for yourself. That person that you've named, usually spouses first, then most trusted kids and so on, they're going to be stepping in to make those decisions for you. Now we'll talk about titling because titling is important and factors into all of this, right? And how you have your assets titled is very important and going to affect which financial assets they have authority to speak on. But financial power of attorney is going to be part of that. Durable, a medical power of attorney. This one I would argue is even more crucial. If something happens to you and you are incapacitated and unable to speak for yourself or in the hospital or in a coma or something like that, who is that person that is stepping in to make those decisions, to talk to the doctors, to figure out your care? This is one of the most important pieces. And then the living will goes along with that for, end of life decisions and things like that and how you'd want to be treated in those extreme situations. So these are all the pieces that the attorney is going to put together for you along with your last will and testament, maybe a couple of other things. Those are the basics. Everyone needs that because if you don't at least have those basics and those plans, you do have a plan. You have the state's plan, which I assure you is not going to be something that you want or going to filter down to your kids and generations and things the way that you would like it to. So I would encourage you to at least have these basics. Now, from there, most people will still have the conversation of, do I also need a trust? A trust is also a very important document to consider. And I would say the majority of people that I talk to, they'll say, oh, I don't know if I need that. And I say, well, let's talk about some of the situations where it would make sense. Do you have a blended family? Yes. Okay. You would benefit from a trust. Obviously, we're trying to avoid probate because if you have just the will, that is all going to go through the probate process in court. Not necessarily a terrible thing, but it does take more time, is more complicated, can sometimes be more costly. A trust avoids all of that. A trust would allow your trustee to step in, begin handling your affairs and managing things during your incapacity, which is also another benefit and is a little bit higher power than that durable financial power of attorney. They have a little bit more, I want to say flexibility, but their powers are a little greater, so that would add to your protection and incapacity, and it also avoids that probate process. Those are probably the biggest things about a trust that we talk about that we're wanting to avoid. There's also the consideration of your children, your beneficiaries, your family, who you're leaving the assets to? Are there any concerns that you have of them getting full unlimited access? Do we want to maybe protect that access a little bit? Not necessarily forever, but just helping them to budget, right, after you're gone, how they're going to spend it. Are there any substance abuse issues that we're concerned about? Are there any mental health issues we're concerned about? Is there any disability that we're concerned about, right? So these are all the questions that we go through, and usually when we get to the end, there might be a reason that a trust would make sense, because it just gives you more protection and control, and it outlines how things are going to happen after you're no longer here, right? So it can continue on. The beneficiaries can still have access to the money, but they're protected from having full access, and they're getting those distributions over a longer period of time. They have a team that is supporting them and handling investments and making sure that this is supporting them, for as long as possible, and can also then go on to the next generation, right? So that's another big reason for trusts. We want this to go through multiple generations. So all of those are things to consider when you're looking at your plan, thinking about these documents and what might fit for you and your needs. But those are a lot of the conversations that I have with clients. And keep in mind too, this is a moving target, right? Just like everything else in our lives, it's something that we have to maintain. So I say every 3 to 5 years or major life event, dust off the documents, make sure the plan still fits, that everyone named is still appropriate, that all of our beneficiary designations match, life insurance policies, right? We need to look at the whole plan, all of the different assets, and make sure that everything is fitting together as it should. And of course, Chris and his team, that's what they're here for, to help you do and make sure that we're looking at all of those pieces. But don't think about it as just the documents. We also need to make sure all of the assets are titled properly. And so then that's where we'll get into, if you do have a trust, it is so important to actually fund the trust. I can't tell you how many times we'll run into a situation where a client has passed away or become incapacitated. They have a trust document, but we didn't retitle any of the assets. So it's basically an empty suitcase without anything in it. So I have all of these instructions, but there's no investment account titled in it. The home isn't titled in it. The IRA or the other beneficiary designations on life insurance don't eventually fund to the trust. So we're not going to use the trust. We'll eventually get there, but we're going to have to go through probate now and do that whole process, which was one thing we were trying to avoid in order to get to the trust and actually fund that. I've had a couple situations just recently where that happened. So if you go through the process and the time to put this plan together, make sure you do the extra steps afterward. And the attorney should be providing you with all of that. They should be giving you a roadmap of what to do and how to retitle and what to give your financial advisor for all of those pieces. But of course, we're happy to help you with that as well. That's why we're here. So we can talk through all of those pieces. But I just wanted to hit on that one important point because I see it too much, and people will forget or maybe not think of that last step. And so that's just really important.
Erin, another question back here. So that's
Sure.
a really good point you bring up. We hear this quite a bit from attorneys. Sometimes the trust is created, and sometimes the attorney will say just name it as so if you have a personal investment account, that should be entitled to the trust. Sometimes they say just do like a TOD, a transfer on death, to name the trust.
I don't like that.
Sometimes, because we take direction from the attorney to
Right.
say, okay, what should we do here?
Right.
So sometimes we hear that both ways.
Right.
So just kind of curious to know,
The transfer on death thing, what I don't like about it is the whole point of the trust is to help protect you if you're incapacitated. If you don't retitle it, now you're relying on that financial power of attorney to have all of that information and to be able to act in that capacity rather than the trust. And the trust is a more robust document and it has multiple successions built into it. So that power of attorney is only going to go probably 2 people, 1, 2, and then what happens after that. So if both those people aren't available, or if they really shouldn't be in charge of those pieces, right, the trust is more superior because it's going to give you backup after backup after backup. So if all these people are unavailable, the beneficiaries usually have the power to appoint someone else. So you have someone always in that role. So that's my only thing with that, is that I worry the incapacity complaining, I've seen it, not be great. But great point. So I wanted to highlight these that are in your packet that were provided. These are not mine, but I love these. These are great. This personal information organizer is wonderful, and I would highly encourage everyone to either fill this out on a paper form and upload it digitally, or go straight to the digital option. I know there's a client vault that you have access to through Gentine and their team. It is a wonderful resource. I would highly encourage everyone to upload all of their estate planning documents, their powers of attorney, deeds to the house, life insurance, recent tax returns, everything. Put everything in there, because eventually we're all going to need that information. Whoever is stepping in for you that is going to handle your affairs, either while you're still here or once you passed away, they're going to need all of that information. Don't make them dig through the shoeboxes in your closet. It is going to be so difficult and overwhelming. They're already going to be caring for you. If they may be grieving, there's just a lot going on. So the more that you can upload and have access to all of that information, the easier it will be for you and for the team that is supporting you. So highly encourage you to look through this. This is a great guide to help you figure out all the different pieces that you might need, but then I would encourage you to upload it digitally. And it's a great way for, if you're traveling, we all have our phones with us all the time, right? Did you bring your financial power of attorney, your healthcare certificate? Probably not. But if you upload it to the client vault, you would have access to that. So again, going on a vacation, and this is a real story, a colleague of mine, she and her husband went overseas. As soon as they got off the plane, her husband started to feel ill. He ended up in the hospital. Luckily, she did have those pieces of paper with her digitally, right, on her phone, that she was able to show to the Italian authorities. No, I'm his wife, I'm his power of attorney, I'm able to speak for him. If she hadn't had that, who knows what the situation would have been, or what they would have had to gone through to be able to have her make those decisions for him. So, real life example to tell you, this is a nice, easy way for you to upload this information and have access to it all the time. And then, don't be afraid to have these conversations with your family and your loved ones. I am a huge proponent for family meetings. You don't have to get into specifics of dollar amounts and all these pieces, but have the conversation of what you want to happen, what your plan is, how things are going to be split out after you're gone. It's better that everyone hears it from you than reading it in the trust document later and finding out, how everything is going to happen. So I would highly encourage you to have those conversations now so that they can be a part of that plan and help you, with those pieces when needed. And then thinking through, who that person is going to be and who is going to handle all of these items. Some of you may have trusted, sons, daughters, contacts, whoever, that are going to step into these roles for you. Some may not. So there are some corporate options, right? Fiduciaries, successor trustees that can help in these capacities, either as a sole or as a co-trustee, to help those individuals that you have to serve in these roles and handle all of these items, because it's a lot. There's the financial aspect, paying all of your bills if you're still here and we're caring for you, taking care of the home, and then handling the settlement. That's a huge responsibility. If any of you have gone through a settlement, you know how complicated and time-consuming it can be, and the emotional toll it can take on you. So there are resources, obviously Raymond James Trust is one, but there are many others that can help you and help your loved ones serve in those roles and handle all of those pieces. So they don't have to do it alone. So I do want you to think about that. And as an unbiased third party, there's a lot of situations, blended family again, where does it make sense that we want to put that burden on the oldest child? How is it going to work with the other siblings, blended families or, second marriages? Maybe we're taking care of the surviving spouse. So all of those different things, that's what we see on a day-to-day basis. So I have the stories for you. So just think about that when you're putting plans together. And don't be afraid to give your loved ones that option of support. I got the 2-minute mark, so I will finish up. Just lean on your team, make sure you have a plan, make sure it's in place and that you're checking on it every once in a while. Don't be afraid to put something together. I always encourage clients, don't try and look at it from a 30-year out, right? we can only plan for right now. So I would say, what do you want to happen within the next 3 to 5 years? Put your plan in place thinking on that roadmap, and then revisit it in another 3 to 5 years. Does this still make sense? Am I comfortable with this? Okay, we're gonna go a little bit further. So don't try and plan 30 years out, because that's overwhelming and we don't know what's gonna happen. You can plan for just now and make sure that you have something in place so that you can sleep at night and feel comfortable knowing if the worst should happen, you have the documents in place and the people in place and you're going to be cared for. So, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Meredith.
Usually being the insurance person, I'm always asked to be the last person to prevent anybody get to happy hour. Now I'm being asked to make sure I get through this quickly so we all get to lunch. So, also, one thing, I was kind of late to the dance on this. Ashley reached out to me maybe 2 weeks ago. Until today, we've never even known each other. And I get this random email, hey, Mike, can you show up for a panel on aging? And I'm thinking, is she talking about me? Like, I am 65, my hair's white, but like, okay, I guess I'll go. I'll learn more about this, which I have from everybody so far. So, and one last thing before I get into long-term care, and I want to kind of pivot off of what Meredith was just sharing with us. So I'm like Dino, based in the Detroit area, and we're really good friends of ours. Our daughters all went from kindergarten through college together. We got together with them a few weeks ago, and we had been at their house for Super Bowl. Turns out that my friend named Bob, his brother Jerry, who I sat next to at the Super Bowl, died suddenly at 64, day after Easter and so forth. Jerry didn't have his act together with beneficiaries and so forth, and I'll cut to the chase, is that one, he named one of his friends as the trustee. A friend lives in Maryland, and when he was called and contacted about, hey, you're the trustee of Jerry's estate, he goes, I'm in Maryland, I'm not doing any of this. So it fell upon my buddy Bob to take care of that. Also, he didn't check his beneficiary designations. Jerry's been divorced for 13 years. Guess who's the beneficiary of his $600,000 life insurance policy? Let's just say it was not an amicable divorce, so good luck prying that out, those dollars from them. So, all right, enough said about that. I know this looks cartoonish, right, compared to everybody else's very professional slides and so forth. We represent 45 different insurance companies at Raymond James, and is anybody here, first of all, from the insurance industry, worked in the insurance industry? Anybody? Okay, it's okay. No offense taken. But we, in the insurance industry, love our papers, forms, and so forth. And I could wallpaper not only this clubhouse, but the entire golf course with what matters when it comes to long-term care. This basically breaks it down really, really simply. And again, I talk to clients on average probably 4 to 6 meetings a week, whether it be in person or via Zoom. And one of the things that, when they're very much interested in it, by the way, does anybody in the room own long-term care insurance? Good for you. Did you raise your hand, Ashley? Look at you. Thank you for doing that. But the reason why I'm asking that is, like most folks, when I talk to, some of the feedback that I get from them initially is that I've probably aged up. I'm too old to get long-term care insurance, or, I have some type of impairment and I don't think I could qualify for it. When I started in the business 40 years ago, there was only one type of long-term care insurance. It was sold, anybody remember Marlon Perkins? It was a thing. Yes, Mutual of Omaha. It was a joint policy, that was it, and then a few other companies, United of Omaha got into it and so forth. So that part of the industry, more people or more carriers got into it, and it kind of graduated. Hit the year 2000, things started changing. Companies started creating more products in the long-term care benefits. Probably your long-term care broker right now. You're approved, Victoria, you're approved. But so what happened was those types of old school long-term care policies, the problem with those were a couple of things. One, there was no death benefit. So it was like somebody buying a homeowner's policy or auto insurance or whatever, where something significant had to happen in order for there to be a benefit paid out. Otherwise, if you paid into this policy for 30 years or whatever it was and died peacefully in your sleep and never used it, there was no benefit for maybe the surviving spouse or your children. The other thing with that as well is there was no, like, say, premium refund. Let's say I put 20 years into this plan and I won the Wisconsin Powerball. I won $140 million. Do I really need this anymore? I'm going to cash out. Well, there is no cash in these policies, those types of old policies. But the worst thing about it is those plans did not have a guaranteed premium. There is a company out there right now by the name of Genworth. They pretty much had the market on these types of policies for about a decade or so. And what's happening, and with some of the things I do at least once a month with an advisor like Chris or anybody on his team, is that they'll call me and say, my client just got a letter from Genworth and they're raising the premiums by 65%, or 70%. And I'm not exaggerating. These are numbers. These are real numbers. My clients are 78 and 82. They've had the policy for 20 years. What do we do next? My whole point in sharing all these kind of disaster stories is that this market has changed. There are guaranteed premium products. These products also have death benefits. There's guaranteed coverage or benefit increases. One of the concerns that folks that I speak with have is like, I'm not sure I can qualify for it. All the carriers today have what we call them knockout Q&As or knockout questions. Well, if somebody's interested, and we'll say, can you just look at this PDF or we can mail it to them. Do you have any of these conditions? Are you taking any of these medications? Because if you're not, there's probably like a 90% chance you're going to qualify for the coverage. The other thing too is qualifying for the coverage. It's not a physical underwriting process any longer. Like if you buy life insurance, you have to have a nurse come to your house and draw blood and all those other things. With long-term care, it's a phone call. Somebody's going to call you up. Hey, I'm Mike Crail. I'm with Lincoln Financial Group, and I understand you have an application with us. I need 15, 20 minutes of your time. Just want to go through medical history and so forth. And after that phone call, there will be a decision made within 72 hours if you're approved or not. So it could be as quick as that. The other part of the long-term care journey is some folks will say, well, again, I'm in my late 70s, early 80s. I can't get coverage. Well, that's not really true, because there are carriers that will issue long-term care, and I'll share a quick story with you. This particular person, she was 87 years old, lived in the Minneapolis area. This just happened in February. Her husband passed away a few years ago. She was concerned that he needed long-term care and kind of dwindled down their assets in order to take care of them. She wanted to make sure something was left for her children. She answered 4 questions, and I'm going to give you the 4 questions. Hey, and I'm just making up a name right now. Hey, Betty, did you show up to your advisor's office with a car that had a handicap license plate on it? Are you using a walker or some type of physical aid to get around? No. That's good. Okay. 2, Betty, has your doctor told you you cannot perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, which are, I even brought my little pointer here. It's just not working on this thing. But the activities of daily living: dressing, eating, bathing, continence, transferring, toileting. Those are, if your doctor says you cannot do 2 of the 6, then you're going to qualify for long-term care. In this case, Betty's doctor did not say she can't do those things, so that was a good answer. Question number 3. Betty, has your doctor said you have some type of cognitive issues, or, you're showing early onset of Parkinson's, dementia? We all know those things. The answer was no. And finally, Betty, are you currently, or have you in the past received Social Security disability income benefits? No. You're approved. 4 questions, guaranteed issue. Not even a phone call. The other component of long-term care as well is, well, I'm not sure how I can afford it. And Chris maybe can attest to this, but actually all the advisors here, is that when we retire, I think that the majority of our assets are held inside of an IRA or qualified plan dollars. And to purchase most long-term care, you cannot use IRA dollars to fund those things. That's just the way it works. Except there is one carrier out there, One America, that you can fund their contract with IRA dollars. So now, yes, I understand that the majority of us need RMDs to maintain lifestyle and so forth. But if in fact having long-term care is important, that might be part of a conversation we can have with you in terms of how do you fund these things. My last comment, and then we will get to lunch, I promise you, is, and I look at it this way. My wife and I, we'll be married 42 years in a couple of weeks, and that was one of my highlights that you had asked us to put down earlier. My wife is a fireball. She's 5'2". I'm 6'4". I look at her, and I know from the fact, because she's a health nut, if something happens to one of us, it's going to happen to me. I know for a fact there's, and again, she's very strong-minded. She's German. I'm not saying anything, but she's very strong-minded. So there's no way you're going to take care of me. So back in 2012, I bought a long-term care policy. My whole thing is, it's not about me. I'm not buying this. I just know that from the fact that I don't want, my family, my girls, by the way, are spread out all over the place, and it's, there's no way they're coming in to help mom, and especially not help me. So we get along. I don't want you to think that's the wrong way. But my whole point was, I'm trying to help my wife out to where, yeah, we need a licensed care practitioner to come to the house to maybe, help me dress or prepare meals or that type of thing. So it's from the standpoint that I look at long-term care is not so much for me, but from my life partner to help her, or if it's a reverse, help me out with regards to that going forward. So anyway, again, the takeaway from this is, don't think long-term care, that ship has sailed or whatever. It's worth having a conversation with your financial advisor about it, and then we can go from there. So,
But as we come back from our lunch here, let's start with looking at this wonderful idea. What about all my stuff? Right? By the way, I think this wasn't part of the program, but my wife brought them in. It is probably just designed for me. What about all my stuff? Right? She's laughing. It's probably true, by the way. So Lisa Haynes is wonderful. She's the owner of Bridge Forward Senior Move Specialist. She's got some wonderful, wonderful ideas for us as well here. And what should we do with all of our stuff? So I'm going to be taking copious notes here. Thank you, Lisa.
That is the million-dollar question. What do I do with all my stuff, right? So who has too much stuff in their home? Yep, it's pretty universal. And given that fact, the thought of moving strikes dread in the hearts of even the most stalwart individuals, especially those who haven't moved in 30 or 40 years. Absolute truth. I own and manage a senior move management company, and so we've helped hundreds of individuals through the overwhelming, emotional, and very often stress-inducing process of downsizing and moving. When I meet with a client for the first time, he or she almost always says, the first words that come out of their mouth is, I don't even know where to start. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So you may have experienced in working with family members or friends and helping them downsize and move that sometimes there are some challenges along the way. One certainly is the emotional attachment to possessions and the family home. Another one is downsizing and moving is a really physical thing to do. It's exhausting. People can be overwhelmed by decades of possessions. And this probably doesn't involve anybody here, but sometimes there might be some family dynamics that make the whole process a little more complicated. So how does senior move managers help? Again, this is an industry, it's a profession. There are senior move management companies throughout the country. But senior move managers help in a customized way with their clients with sorting, organizing, helping make decisions about what to keep, what to donate, what to sell, and what to dispose of. We coordinate all the logistics for a move. We hire and schedule the mover. We work with the real estate agent if there's a home to sell to make sure the house is ready to turn over to the real estate agent at the time that's appropriate for that piece of the process. We work in helping the clients donate their belongings, sometimes small, sometimes large, in a way that makes sense for them. And we also work to help make sure the new home is set up for safety and accessibility. So along with all the logistics and the back-end things, the frontline team also oftentimes provides a great deal of emotional support and helps reduce stress for seniors and their families. It's a really important piece. A lot of people don't realize how much stress there is until they're actually involved in the process. No one gets through this without some stress. So as we talked about, the first question is, the million-dollar question is, where does it all go? And there are really only 4 places where it's going to go. You're either going to move it, you're going to donate it, you're going to sell it, or it's going to end up in the landfill. So when you move it, when we work with clients, we begin with a wish list, and we go through the house together and work on what are the pieces of furniture and other belongings that they most want to move. And we create an inventory of those. And then we go and we measure. And that includes measuring the new space, measuring all the pieces of furniture, the other large belongings that we're going to try to move in, and see what fits. If everything doesn't fit, we go through a prioritization process and help the clients work through making sure we move the things they love the most, and also those things that are going to be most functional in the space. So that's moving. Donating. Your best option for donating things is family and friends. They're a wonderful resource. It is a common thing that kids want to take a lot of things, but then they don't show up to take them, so you got to give them a deadline, make sure they come, be pretty strict about that. But there also are a lot of charitable organizations in this community and the communities where you live that will take good quality used furniture and other belongings. But it's a little complicated, and you have to understand and work with the system. Not every organization takes everything, so you have to call, you have to find out what they'll take, what they won't take, schedule pickup, etc. Many people might not know this, but Andy, who's in the front row here, works with a fabulous Lutheran organization that picks up good quality furniture. They put it in a warehouse. They use that furniture to help homeless people when they're moving into homes. So there are a lot of great resources out there. But you can't do it overnight. It takes some time, it takes planning, it takes making phone calls, it takes kind of learning how the system works. So we got moving, donating, selling. The bad news here is that most people find that the resale of their furniture and home belongings has a lot less value than what they think it might. Mid-century furniture has value in the marketplace, traditional furniture does not. Antiques typically, unless there's something really unusual, sell for less than most people think. So there are options for selling things. It takes time. It's complicated. There are estate sales. Most estate sale companies want to net at least $10,000 before they'll even look at the option of doing an estate sale in your home. And for us, frankly, with a lot of our clients, by the time they take the best things, their kids take the next best things, there's not enough left for an estate sale. So again, something that when we work with clients, if we have a client who's interested in an estate sale, we will bring the estate sale companies in very early on to take a look at what they think is going to be left and start to help make decisions. But there's also consignment, there are auction options, particularly for art and antiques, if that's something that's in a home. And frankly, online resale options are fabulous. If you have someone in your house who knows how to use Facebook Marketplace, go for it. Yeah, it's fabulous. So again, there are options, but it takes time and it takes energy. The fourth is disposal. Everyone has some stuff to get rid of at the end. When we work with clients, we try to minimize that. If you're doing it on your own, call around. The prices, the services vary widely, so you want to make sure you understand what you're going to be charged for what. And my most important advice for today is if you're thinking about moving now or in 5 years, fill up your trash cans and your recycling bins every single week. Fill them to the fullest. Because people don't really realize how expensive it is to get rid of trash at the end. A trailer load of trash is going to be $400 or $500. A dumpster unfilled is $600. So you can start to see how it really adds up. So use the free resources that you have. Whether you're moving into a smaller home, same size home, everyone's going to have some downsizing to do as part of a move. So here are a few tips. If you're thinking about starting, make sure you have some supplies ready before you start. It's going to make the whole process a little bit easier. And commit to a small amount of time each day or each week. If you say, today I'm going to spend the day and clean out the kitchen, you know what's going to happen? You're probably not going to do it. It's too much time. It's too overwhelming. If you say, boy, I'm going to give an hour to cleaning out these 4 drawers, the likelihood that you accomplish that is much higher. So just commit to a small amount of time. Once you start and you begin to see the process that you're making, you build up momentum, you build up a little confidence in your decision making, and it starts to go faster, but don't overcommit. Focus on one room or area of the house at a time. When you're in your home, it's easy for us to do as senior roof managers because we're not attached to the other things, but in your own home, like it's easy if you're starting in one room and you go take something in the kitchen and then you get distracted, you start cleaning out that drawer, you won't make as much progress. So really try to be really focused and really disciplined about that. Household items like clothing or things that you're cleaning out from the kitchen, bag those up, pack them up, put them in your car right away. It accomplishes 2 things. You see progress in your house right away, which is really good, and it keeps the momentum going. And also, you know what? You're not as inclined to go back through the boxes or the bags and take out things that you've changed your mind about the next day. So, if you're having trouble getting started, another tip is to start in a room of the house that you use less often. And that's because you're likely to have less emotional attachment to the things in those rooms, so it's going to make it a little bit easier. So if you have an extra bedroom, nobody's gone in there for 5 years, start there. It's much easier. And again, you'll build up confidence. And my last piece of advice on getting ready to start is be kind to yourself through this process. It is a process. Give it time. Sometimes you might have to go through a room 2 or 3 times because you kind of get to the point where you just can't make any more decisions. So let it go, move on to another room, come back another week, and again, give yourself time and be kind to yourself along the way. This process is not easy for one single person, ever. So just acknowledge that as well. If you're thinking, gosh, I'm not ready yet, but I may be in 5 years, what can I do now? Let me just give you 4 recommendations. One is to start to go through photos and memorabilia. It's a big one. It's hard. Most people don't do it. So a lot of times what happens is all those pictures get dumped in boxes and they get put in a storage unit or somewhere else because they haven't had the time to do it early on. So on cold winter's days, start to pull out some of those boxes of photos, order some acid-free photo boxes from Amazon, or work with a company, better yet, who will digitize those photos for you. There are a lot of great options. But just start to chip away little by little. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of heartache in the long run. Number 2, somebody brought this up at our table, is paperwork. Most people keep much too much paperwork, and it's stuff they don't need. So begin now to work with your financial advisor, identify those things that you do need to keep, make sure they're in a safe place, and start to get rid of the rest. There are free shredding events throughout our communities throughout the year. Take advantage of those and start to get through the paperwork. The other thing is if you have collectibles in your home that you think you might want to sell, it's a great idea to start researching the options early. Again, it takes time, it takes phone calls, and if you try to do this in the month before you move, you're probably not going to be very likely, right? So if you have some things you think have value, start that process early. And number 4 in this category is belongings left in your home by your children. So I have things in my home that my kids have left behind. This is a great time to have them try to go through those. And you know what, if they don't, it's your decision to get rid of them or what to do with them. But now's the time while you kind of have the energy, you're not distracted with the immediacy of the move to figure out what to do with those and to get that stuff cleaned out. If the kids don't want it, haven't wanted it by now, they probably don't ever want it. So now if you're a little closer to getting ready and you're getting started, I'm going to provide you with 6 insider tips for downsizing. The first is colored sticky dots and Post-it notes are your friend when you're going through a room and figuring out what you're going to do with what you're going to move, donate, sell, whatever. You can use different colored dots to identify those. And it really helps in the long run because then you're not going back in the room and rethinking your decisions every time. Not that you can't change it, but it helps sort of reinforce that here's where you're going and you've made some decisions along the way. Use large outdoor trash bags and paper grocery bags for packing up your donations. They don't get as heavy as boxes. They don't take up as much room in your car, and they're cheap. So again, pack up those, like kitchen items are great. Just double up those grocery bags, fill them up as full as you can, put them in the trunk of your car, and drop them off at St. Vincent de Paul or Goodwill, wherever, when you're out. If there are some things, some memorabilia type things that you know you're going to want to store, stock up on a few clear plastic bins from Walmart or wherever you shop. When they're in a storage unit, it's much easier to keep track of what you have in there if they're in clear bins rather than cardboard boxes or bins that you can't see through. So that's a good tip. And if your move is close, or maybe even within the next year, it's time to use up items in the Costco closet. There's no sense in moving 100 boxes of Kleenex or 50 rolls of paper towels, so think about that. The other thing is, a lot of clients we work with have wonderful used book collections. And most libraries will take books in good condition. They have different rules about what they'll take, so it's a great time to contact your library, find out what they take. Many libraries have Friends of the Library associations who will come and pick up the books from your house if you coordinate that. So if you want those books to have a good home, there are plenty of good homes for them. Also, many electronics are banned from Wisconsin landfill, so you can check with your local community to find out what types of recycling resources that they have. Goodwill recycles many electronics, so a lot of things, old printers and DVD players, et cetera, you can drop off at Goodwill. Some things they don't take, but they have a good explanation of that on their website. It's the same thing with hazardous waste materials. If you have paint cans, if you have other hazardous waste, your communities have resources for that, so check the website. They also most have free recycling events throughout the year, so take advantage of those. If you or a family member needs help with moving, I mean, there really are a lot of resources out there. And one of the other things I frequently hear from people is, boy, I didn't know that companies like you existed. I wish I knew this 5 years ago when I was moving my mom. So on the sheet that you have on your table, this one, there's a website, and it's the National Association of Senior Move Managers, NASM.org. So they have a move manager search function. So you can go on the website, and whether you're local, whether you have someone who's moving from another state, you can put the zip code in, and it will list all of the companies that service that area. So I oftentimes get calls from people who have a mother who's moving from Florida. They need help. I'll look at the website. Some of the people I know through networking and through association meetings, et cetera, and I'll help identify a couple of good options for them. So and the website also has great information about downsizing and moving as well. So that's a really important resource, and I encourage you to take advantage of that. All senior move management companies provide a free consultation and free estimate, so there's no risk in calling and finding out what they can do for you and how much it will cost. And the other thing that is universal, we finished moving a client last night. We had a hug, a few tears, and she said, I don't know how I could have done this without you. So it's just important to know. And there's a lot of resources out there. And senior move managers also have a lot of other resources in the community, so they can help sometimes with other special types of situations that come up because they're really well networked. That's their job. That's what they do. So I want to leave you with one thought. I mean, downsizing really is the hardest part of moving. And I came across this in an article a couple of weeks ago. It's titled, The Science of Why Decluttering Feels So Emotional. Even the things you inherited from your parents or your grandparents, the dishes, the furniture, the collections, will not stay with you forever. Life's meaning isn't found in couches or curtains. It isn't tucked inside your parents' things or your grandparents' keepsakes. What lasts is how you loved, how you listened, and how you showed up for the people around you and for yourself too. We do need things, and it's natural to give them meaning. But when we try to hold on to all of them, filling every corner of our homes, we have little space left for what matters most: new experiences, new memories, and new joy. Thank you.
My name's Annie Jerzyk, and I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams. I've only been a real estate agent for 6 years. I had an arts background. I worked at a lot of different arts organizations. I ran the fundraising department for Milwaukee Repertory Theater for 12 years. I ran fundraising departments for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and during that time I had wonderful donors that followed me from job to job. And at some point or another, something happened and they had to sell their house. And they were very disappointed because the real estate agent, all they cared about was the contracts. And there is so much more when you've lived in your house for 40 years, 30 years, even 10 years. There's so much more than just a contract when you're selling the house. And so I decided I had one more job in me, that I was gonna study and get my real estate degree. And I was gonna study further and get this, it's the SRES. And so it's the Senior Real Estate Specialist. And so it's studying further so that I can help seniors. And so in the last 6 years, I'm very, very proud to say that 85% of my clients are seniors. And I love working with them. And it's really fun when Lisa and I get to work together, because when we partner together, it's always a good solution at the end. Because our jobs are to take the stress off of you. Because it is stressful. There's no doubt about it. Moving is stressful. And so we always get asked, I just am not ready to move. And so it's like, great. If you're even thinking about it, you call us. You call me. And I come into your house. I have so many clients that I've known for years. I have a client that I met my first year in real estate, and I still visit every year. They're not ready to move. And so we talk about universal design. We talk about things that they can do to stay in their house, because that's important. Any good real estate agent, they're going to have vendors. I've got a great electrician and a plumber and a roofer that'll come out right away. And in order to be on my vendor list, you've got to give a good estimate. You got to show up when you say that you're going to show up. You've got to clean up after yourself, and you have to be fair on your prices. And so so for many years, my clients, they all know, Annie, I've got a leak in my roof. And I'm like, great, I'll send Dwayne over, he'll take care of it. And so that's one of the things that's great. But then when it gets really time to move, it's really important to really look at, okay, is your house, well, look at the health and safety. Can you still get around your house easily? Stairs, bathrooms, safety concerns. Then there's the maintenance. Who's taking care of that snow? Who's taking care of floods if you had a flood for these last, August? There's so many issues with owning a house. Finances. Do you know what your home is worth? I have a great program called HomeBot that I can put in your address, and every month you get an email that says, this is what your home is worth, this is what your equity is in your home. So you have an idea of, down the road, what you have, what you're sitting on. I know you're working with great financial people here who can help you with that, but this is just an email that will help you every month. Just understand that. And then when you decide that it's really time, home buying has changed a lot, especially if you've been in your house for 30, 40 years. Home buying has changed. I've often heard it likened in the beginning of online dating. When you're online dating, you're looking at photos. And before you even go into a house, you look at photos before you go on a date. You want to make sure, okay, all right, I think I like this enough in order to go see the house. Well, that's what people are doing now. Photos and video are so important. Marketing a house is crucial in order to sell it. One of the handouts that you have are 10 steps to selling your house, and I'm not going to go through all of that, but a lot of it is really important because you want to declutter your house. You want to make sure, you want to talk with a real estate agent, because I have a lot of people who say, oh, before I sell the house, I know I have to totally redo my kitchen. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't. Let the next person do that. If it needs paint, fine. But don't do any major work. My mother-in-law redid redid her whole kitchen and then cried boo-hoo tears a month afterwards because she found the cabinets on the curb, because the new person wanted all of their own taste. And so you want to be able to clear things out. You want to make sure that people can imagine their things in your house. A lot of times, Lisa and I work with each other, and we move people out first, and then I move into the house and I help sell it. Or Lisa will help them pack up a lot of things and declutter, and then I use their furniture to stage, and they go away for the weekend, and I work on selling their house. And so we work hand in hand to make sure everything goes smoothly. So pictures are big. So when you're looking for a real estate agent, I always suggest you interview 2 people. Don't interview just one person. And your real estate agent should come over often. You should be able to really understand them. They should be able to give you a comparative market analysis, because you can look up on Zillow, you can look up on HomeBot on what your value is, but the true value of your house is by doing a comparative market analysis on what has sold in your area, so you can get a fair price, so that you know what's going on, because at different times of year, you're going to get a different offer for your house. It's going to be in the spring, most likely, if your home is done nicely, you're going to get more for your house than you're going to get in the fall. Is it a huge amount? Not necessarily. It just depends on the market, but that's the way it's been running. But your real estate agent will be able to tell you all of that. They'll be able to meet with you, and they a lot of times meet with you they should meet with you years beforehand, so they can really guide you through the process. The real estate agent then, once you hire your real estate agent, they take care of all the photos, and you want to be able to see them. So you want to see their past work, because again, most of it's online now. And so they have to have good photos, they have to have good video, but they have to have a really good marketing plan. And so then once the house goes live, the goal is to have it up as little as possible. The goal is to, within 2 weeks, now in the fall it's a little bit longer, your house should have offers. And if it doesn't, then most of the time it's not priced well. Or, there can be some extenuating circumstances, but for the most point, in 2 weeks, you should know what's going on with your house. And so the real estate agent then takes care of all of the negotiations. So you don't ever have to worry about that. They communicate with you, but they work through all the contingencies, and they work through to make sure everything's going to happen as the contract says. And so the goal is, at the end of the day, you walk away with that money in your account. Lisa's got you situated into your new home, and you have as less stress as possible, because that truly is our goal of the whole thing, to make sure that it's easy. Some tips to think about when you're selling your house, because when houses get sold, as I said, it's all online, pictures are online. Video and pictures, people can see that across the world, and people are looking. I'm horrified sometimes when I walk into a house and I see a beautiful wedding picture with the date they got married. Sally and Jane, this is the date they got married. They have pictures of all of their kids with their birth, how much they weighed and the birth date and their names. All of that is going out, and, unfortunately, fraud happens everywhere. And so all of a sudden, you've given all these people you don't even know, all this information with photos. And so one of the things I do right away when I go through the house, it's we got to take down all these personal photos before we even begin to market your house. So there's tips and tricks, especially that somebody who has your SRES, who can really be looking at, because it's all about you. It's all about what you want and the safety of keeping you safe. And so it's important that you find somebody that you can really connect with. It's important that you can really talk to that person. But it's really important that you spend time with that person, because in the end, it's what you want. It's not what the realtor wants. The realtor, you don't want a realtor that's going to be pushy and tell you you have to do everything. You are always in control. And that's one of the things that I want to hit home more than anything, because there's been stories that it breaks my heart. And so make sure that you are in control of who you pick as a realtor, and take your time on picking that person. There's a newsletter that I have that I also pass out at the tables. And it was a wonderful woman who we helped. She moved to Green Bay. She moved into an assisted living place in Green Bay, and she absolutely loves it. And that's one of the things that, even when Julie was talking, because it's when do I move? You want to make sure that you move when you have time to make friends with the community. That is one of the biggest takeaways that I've had with my clients who have moved. There was a couple that Lisa and I helped that he was ready. He was absolutely ready to be out of a house. She was nervous because she was only 70. And it's way too young to be going into one of those places. Well, they moved, and she's so happy because she's quilting with the quilting club. She's doing art with the art group. He's on the landscaping committee, and he loves it because he can do it when he wants, but he doesn't have to do it all the time. And so you want to have community, and you want to be there so that you can build community while you're there. That's so important, because when something happens, or during joyful times, you want to have people who you live with to be joyful or to be sad with you. And so it's really important to start thinking about what that future is going to be, but gathering your posse of who you're going to have around you to help you get to that next step. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And as I have said, Annie, selling your home, don't go it alone. So, I'm just going to make jingles for all of you as clients as well. Not today. I appreciate that. So, we have a section now that we're going to discuss a couple of different things, which are about communicating with your heirs. So, a lot of this is important, right? But communicating this to your heirs and those who are important with this is a super important part right now. So, what I would like to do is bring up a panelist that's not actually on the panel right now, but she's sitting right there, Deb Doty, and myself, Chris Doty, and we're related because we're married. But on this, we want to have some discussions around one of the toughest. Anybody had a full discussion of everything they had with their kids yet? No? Does anybody think it'd be a good idea to have a discussion with their kids about what your decisions are? The greatest gift you can offer them is clarity around decisions. Interestingly, our 18-year-old, 19-year-old daughter went back to University of Iowa. She now has a funeral directive, a funeral plan. She has a trust. She has an estate plan. And she has healthcare powers of attorney and directives. I had her do all this before she went there because once she's 18, guess what? We no longer have any say. None. So these are the kind of odd things about what we're talking about, even as senior living and all, that you might want to think of for kids, grandkids, or people you're responsible for as well. So let me bring up my wife, because we've been having these conversations, and she's been doing a lot of this with her parents, but she brought up a couple interesting things last time that I remember had everybody stop for a minute and go. One of them was, do you want your children going through everything you have? That's where people went home immediately and got rid of stuff.
When I asked that question a year ago, I did see a look in your eyes like you wanted to race out the door to get back home and start going through your things. So it's, my family, I'm the youngest of 8. My parents are still in their household. So there's a lot of stuff. And everyone has different giftings, right? By the way, I worked in long-term care for 10 years. I'm a speech-language pathologist by trade, and I managed PTs and OTs and a rehab unit and all that fun stuff. So I have that background knowledge, and so I guess my gifting is knowledge of this, but also I tend to be an organizer, that sort of thing. And my siblings all have immense giftings, and you kind of bring it together and it works. But I guess I'm the one that initiated a lot of this versus my parents. So I'm the one to say, hey, do you want to maybe go tour some places in case? Hey, let's research home health agencies in case. And I guess if you walked away with one little phrase, it's sooner than later. Okay, so a couple years ago, we started trying to thin through the house, and when siblings would come home, I had a staging room upstairs with the 8 piles for the 8 children, and get that box out the door. Here's some photos. But doing that was a pleasure because when we go through photos, I would capture the stories. So, Dad, who is this? Or where were you here? Or Mom, which relative is this? Capture the history, capture the stories. Sometimes there's little books that can help you with those questions, like Grandma, Grandpa, tell me when. And you can just buy them on Amazon or at little stores and fill those out. What do you want to pass on? What are your stories? So going through the photos and going through memorabilia has been very helpful. Ask how important these things are. You might be holding on to something because you're like, well, one of the kids made it. I would take time and I would send a text with a photo out to all my siblings, and no one has any idea who made it, when it was made, who it was made for. Yeah, that can go in the garbage now. So sometimes you think something's precious and the rest of us are like, yeah, we don't know. We don't know. Lost track of that one. Enjoy that process. That was our first step, was going through and starting to thin things out, and that's a helpful step. We also started touring facilities, and again, should have done that sooner than later. We ended up touring facilities after my dad was rehabbing from a hip fracture last November. So that was a little harder because those facilities are large, and we toured a lot of them. And remember how I said I wanted to see every square inch of it? Yeah. So we did a lot of tours, and that probably would have been easier if we had done that when they were a little more spry. But we got her done. The other thing is we called home health agencies. By we, I mean me. But then I went over the information with them and had them hear it all. But I knew what to ask, which was, if it's a home health agency, how do they hire their workers? Do they do background checks? How often do they do background checks? Do they do continuing education? How often do they do continuing education? You don't want the person that you bring into your home working with you or working with your loved ones to just have been hired and they've been doing it for 6 years, but they're really not staying on top of current information and techniques and helpful tips. So those are some questions to ask as well. Also with home health agencies, some of them do block scheduling. So if you want someone to come into your home, it has to be from 8 to 12 or 12 to 4 or 4 to 8, that sort of thing. Some of them have flexible scheduling. Some will try to send you the same individual so you develop a relationship. Some of them don't have that capability. Just ask questions. As far as back to the things, I did make a spreadsheet because we have a large family, and I just had siblings just check. If you think you might want X, Y, or Z, just check. We'll talk about it later. It's a great way to start. But 3 years ago, my mom had this idea. It was Thanksgiving. That's when my family all comes into town, into Iowa, and including nieces and nephews. And she took the dining room table and she set out all her jewelry. And my mom hardly ever wore jewelry. But she set it all out, and she said, she had the 3 daughters, take our picks, and then all the nieces came in and take their picks. Everyone chose something different. And now she has such joy seeing her daughters and granddaughters wearing those pieces. They were sitting in a dresser drawer for decades. So also ask yourself, if something is so special, why has it been hidden away for so long with no one seeing it, no one enjoying it? Is there something you want to gift to somebody that would make it more meaningful, and would you be getting joy out of it, seeing it with them? So I just wanted to bring that up. Let's see. I think one last thing, and it's hard to say it, but I do say it to my parents. It's kind of like not an if, but when. We know something's going to happen with our health, right? All of us in this room. It's not an if, but a when. And oftentimes it's not what we expected. For instance, for my dad, we thought my mom had a surgery, my dad had a brain bleed we didn't see coming a couple months later. And so we were concerned about future stroke. Well, it was a hip fracture in November, and then it was heart attacks this May. So it wasn't what we were expecting, but guess what? Those tours were done right in time. The trust, right down to the wire, and still after trying to wrap up some things. And it just gets harder when you're not feeling well, or you're more tired, to get all those ducks in a row, all those pieces of paperwork, all those checklists, like I mentioned, the tours and the phone calls. So sooner than later, because it's not an if, but it's a when, and oftentimes it's not what we expect. So that's my more than 2 cents.
No. And stay up here. If you want it well said, say it with Deb. I just figured I'd keep going with this thing, right, exactly. You want to miss? Try it with Chris. I'll work on that one. But these conversations get kind of heavy. So interesting. During the conversation, so I'm going to kind of mark a conversation we had with some parents that are moving along, and they're very well educated, very affluent. And the conversation just originated from a kitchen, walked out to the family room, just the two of us and the two of them, after some family gatherings that we had, and everybody had kind of left. And it just began with really congratulating them. You've done an incredible job. You really, really have. The things you have, what you provided, is absolutely amazing. And using every bit of the gratitude that I could possibly have to say what you've done is so important, it's so good, it's so thoughtful. The questions that I have for you, so that we can do what you'd like, because these are all your decisions, and they're all totally, your decisions, and they're correct no matter what they are, is letting us know what those are. So we began to ask just a couple questions. Remember, let me ask you a question right now. How many of you like to be told what to do? No, really. How many of you are awake right now? Raise your hand if you're awake. Okay, good. Okay. Nobody likes being told what to do we? Don, I'm going to tell you what to do back there. No, we don't like this stuff. So rather than telling, maybe asking questions. If you have parents that are still alive, or if your kids are asking, but ask these questions. They're important questions. So, if something were to happen, when it does, where do you want to go? And we don't really know. So you guys have done all this incredible planning, but haven't thought about the basic function of where we're going to live if I can't live here. And you just leave it up. You just bring it up as a question once again. But the kindness that goes with it is very, very important. It's inquisitive, but I call it appreciative questioning. Okay, do you hear the idea? It's appreciative questioning. There's no telling you haven't done this and that's crap, because you know what the answers are going to come from. It puts the arms together. Appreciative questioning. I appreciate that you've done this, or I appreciate this is coming. What have you thought about this? So these conversations become difficult when you start leading the question. Well, you really should do this. Why haven't you gone to 4 places and had this, that? But let's say, what are the concerns you have? What's prevented you from making these steps so far? You've done everything. Your estate plan is 30 years old. That's great. That's awesome. So there's some considerations today, something called HIPAA, something called 8 children. Rather than being 16, they've got their own families. Have you ever thought about updating that? Well, that's a good idea, but then it becomes their choice to do these things. I think the key is we all want to have our own agency, right? Who here likes to make the decisions for themselves, right? Who here likes to make decisions for other people? Don't point at them. I know Lisa put. I saw that as well. A few people say, yes, I do. But again, it takes teamwork. Some of the decisions you may not want to make, you may not know the questions to ask. But I think with this discussion, I call it the talk. There's a talk of your estate plan. Do you have it? Have you done it? What do you want to do? How about your funeral? Would you like to know that your funeral is a celebration or a very religious, dedicated ceremony that's very strict? Well, you probably have an answer, but your kids don't. I'm pretty sure that they want to hear Freebird at my parents' funeral. Well, who told them that, right? I know some of you may want that, or ukulele played, but still, you get a chance to choose these kind of things. So sometimes these tough discussions are well worth the time, but the approach to them, just start a discussion. Just start the talk. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be some big to-do. It can literally be after a family gathering with the ones who are probably in charge of it. It just so happened to be that she's doing a lot of the work. I do this somewhat for a living, so it really kind of came off as a simple conversation. And my father-in-law pulled me aside and he did this with a look in his eyes that was very serious. Thank you so much. We really needed to have this conversation. That was fantastic. And for him, it's not a common thing, but that's how impactful it was. So these talks need to occur. The more clarity you can give to the people who are supposed to execute it for you, the better. If you don't know, that's okay. That's okay. You can figure it out. But you do want to let them know, I don't know where I'd want to live. If I can't take care of myself, do I want to live at, this or there? Do I want to live in this scenario? I'm not certain. Well, maybe you guys should go take a ride and investigate some of the places, but set up an appointment first, right, Julie? Don't just show up. They're not always ready for those. So.
I was just going to say, just encourage to do some of the work now so that you can live ideally later. So we have our home health agency picked out. Turns out when we dug into the long-term care policy, it covered home health, and guess who they recommend? The one I chose, yay. That worked out nice. They put money down on a facility that had the full continuum of care, and that one was their first choice. They had a close second, and they went with the first choice. I thought they made excellent decisions. It was $5,000 to get down on a wait list, and if they never move in, they get their $5,000 back. In many instances, there's no reason not to get on a wait list. So just make some decisions now, make some phone calls now, figure out an attorney, make some calls to tour some places, make some calls to what can I do if I can't drive? What are the local driving services? There's some senior driving services that you don't have to use an Uber or a Lyft that actually specific for seniors. There's just a lot of resources out there. Of course, Meals on Wheels, all those different agencies. So just do some digging, write down your choices. We want you to make sure you get your first choices if that time comes where you need them.
Was your mom at all hesitant about using these resources?
100%. The question was my mom hesitant? Yes. My parents want to stay in their home, and they are still in their home. But they are living with some peace of mind now because the trust is done. A facility is chosen should they need it. Home health agency is chosen should they start using it. Also with home health, it's not to hesitate calling and requesting it because sometimes it will get denied at first request. But then several months down the road when you really need them, they're like, oh, well, they did ask us for months ago. We better kick in here. So there's no reason not to start some things now. So, and also your family members, should you have family members that are involved in the process, be prepared for varying opinions on how things will be done, and that's okay. It's up to you. You just listen and take it all in, and you form your own opinion.
That's one of the things we emphasize. You've got 8 very smart, very different children, and they all have opinions on the decisions you haven't made yet. It was very straightforward and clear, and they all are well-meaning, right? So just something you went through there as well. I think, a couple of the things, too, that we've talked. Well, are there any questions about this conversation? Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
you talked about getting on a wait list. Okay, so does that mean an availability comes up? Do you have to take it? What if you're like, oh, I'm not ready to go yet, but I want to be on a wait list?
Yeah, each facility will have a different answer with that. You don't have to take it at first, is that correct? Right, so you know the answer as well, but just a quick answer from Julie.
No, again, look at the contracts before you sign them. But for us, you have 3 chances to turn something down, and you don't go to the bottom of the entire wait list, you just go to the bottom of what you're waiting for. I've had people turn me down and have been on the wait list for over 5+ years now, so do it early.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's a bit like she said, make sure you ask for the contract because every facility is different. The one in Iowa, you never get bumped to the bottom. You just can keep declining and keep your spot. So it just depends. I'm sure all places are just a little bit different, and she had the most excellent point of read the fine writing.
No, thank you. Great question. That's an excellent question. Anyone else? Yes, Ken.
Just a follow-up. We learned in our research and so on, they all look the same. They're all different. And it's all in the details, and they all operate their businesses different. So check that out because they all look great when you walk in the door.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Don't just assume one is like the other, right? So maybe just make sure you get the answers to the questions. If you have a 20 question checklist, make sure you have each one answer all 20 questions, right?
And don't judge a book by the cover. Online, when I narrowed down some facilities for us to go tour, with input from mom and dad, we're like, okay, here's the ones we're gonna go to. First choice online was not first choice in person. I thought, this is the one. It's beautiful, all the trees, rolling hills. And when we got there, I was just curious what they felt. They felt what I felt. It just felt a little disjointed, almost a little separatist, because the memory had its own building, the memory care and the assisted living and the independent was over. We didn't sense community. Sometimes you just will have a gut feeling when you walk in to a place. And so online can help you narrow down where you're going to start, who you're going to tour with, but then the in-person will really give you an idea.
Other questions? No? I mean, a couple things here then. If you're having the conversation with your kids, let me give you a couple of ideas. You know, what your heirs want to hear. Clarity of wishes. Here's what I'd prefer if I can't live at home. Practical boundaries. I don't expect you to do 24/7 care. Okay, so 24/7, I'm not expecting that. So these are the things they want to hear. How about flexibility? If my needs change, I trust you to help adjust the plan. Okay, these are the things you want to tell them. Gratitude. I value your support more than you know. When that happens and you've done all this work, it feels incredible. What's amazing is when somebody does all the work, but the kid who did nothing gets the gratitude. Mo, they're doing just an amazing job. Yeah, but they're here once out of a year. This person's been here every month for 12 months. That's the superhero, right? You want to make sure you're helping them identify that. Reassurance. My goal is not to be a burden, right? So these are all important. What to avoid saying. How about that? This is a good one. I'll never leave this house. That's one. Sounds final. Creates guilt when change becomes necessary. Be careful of that. Also what not to say. You'll take care of me, right? Because everybody's probably said that. It implies obligation without clarity. Do whatever you want when the time comes. It leaves the burden on you as the heir to make decisions, and you have no idea what the decisions of your parents were. And then the fourth one is silence. See? It's just uncomfortable. Anyway, the avoidance is it avoids decisions in a crisis. Now, there's 4 unwritten rules of this conversation, okay? So I've put them all on the next slide, except they're unwritten. That's a dad joke, a little attempt at it, so I don't care if it's funny or not. It deserves groans, as you'd said. But so there's something we also have today that you didn't have when your parents were growing up. It's called the digital legacy. Anybody heard of digital legacy? Digital legacy is, does anybody have a phone? I've heard about 12 of them go off during the program. So if you have a phone, how many photos? You want to do a quick contest? How many photos do you have right now? If you go into your photos and you can shout it out, you get a $100,000 bar. Okay, right now, how many? 40,000, that's awesome. Do I hear a higher bid? I hear 40 to 150, 40 to 150, 40 to 50, 50. Do I hear more than that? Who said 40, by the way? Anybody have more than 40,000? Who had 40,000? Perfect. 54,000. 54,000. Okay. So keep going. Did you said 40? Anyone else? Anyone else? I have 135,000. I have 2 teenage girls. Oh, look, I get a candy bar. So this is the $100,000. If you had answered the question, you too could have $100,000 from your advisor today, and it's worth about $70,000 after inflation. So you could have this. You could have this. So feel free to participate. But when it comes to your digital legacy, we have a few things we talked about. But what happens when you pass away with your photos? Who knows how to get into your phone? Who knows all the secret codes to all your online stuff? Does anyone? There's millions of abandoned Facebook pages out there with people who aren't living, but it still exists because nobody knows how to get into them. Facebook doesn't retire them. They don't know if they're passed away. So looking at your digital legacy, what about your 135,000 photos nobody could ever look at, right? How can we access those? Those are precious to us. So your digital legacy becomes incredibly important. Photos, passwords, online sign-ins, if your documents are in the vault with us. So we have something called the vault. This digital legacy executor handbook we put together with some of the different ideas. And on the very back, you'll find a 5-step digital legacy roadmap, okay? Put together by our team. So this book looks like this. It's on your table. And when you look at it, you know, here's the 5. Survey what you have, simplify and cleanse, decide, formalize, and share. So here's what I can see. The next stage is going to be having a digital declutterizing agent. Right? That's the next step. Because, right, we can see all your stuff, but you can't see all this stuff. But it's there, right? If you got a lot of stuff at home, check out your phone. The 4,000 web pages you've kept over time as well. I didn't know that many could be open at one time, my wife would say. I go, yeah, I just never close them. But so what this does, this is designed to take an inventory of your digital footprint. So your digital footprint is really designed to something be taken care of as well. Many of your older trusts and wills do not address this. There's a lot of resources. Make sure your estate planner is looking, and also your decluttering agent is looking at decluttering everything and having at least a plan to do so. Okay, because this becomes sometimes one of your most important lost items. What's the password to get into that account? Okay, so this is a very, very important one as well. Thoughts or questions? By the way, there's people today who live, and I just read this, live on different things called Roblox. Roblox, they have these little digital games. They have wallets that are tied to it. And by the way, if you lose your cryptocurrency keys, if you lose the passwords to them, guess what happens to the cryptocurrency? It goes away. There's a gentleman who lost in the dump $92 million worth of cryptocurrency on his hard drive when they took it out of his computer and threw it away, and he didn't realize he'd thrown the wrong one away. He was petitioning for 3 years to dig through the dump to find it. And they said, sure, go ahead. Hasn't found it. So you look at these are very, very important things. You may not own cryptocurrencies, but you have photos that are much more precious. So things you want to take a look at that are very important to your digital legacy as well. So one last thing before we move on. Was there anything else, Deb, for you?
Speaking of digitizing things, if you have one precious photo of you as a little girl and you as a little boy, whatever, that precious photo, here we have 8 children in our family. We're digitizing photos so everyone has them. So share the wealth of those special photos, and it also helps you to thin through and get rid of the ones you didn't really care to keep.
So in here, we've actually provided, this is not legal advice, but there's a digital executor agreement, right? So there's just a template for you to work on. Who's in charge of your digital stuff? Can't power wash your digital photos, right? Be kind of good if we could. So one more thing before we move on. I just wanted to talk to you about one more piece of an estate plan. And this is something that I advocate for very, very heavily. It's not legal, but it should be included with your papers. It's called an ethical will. Has anybody ever heard of an ethical will? Please raise your hand if you have. Okay? This is like 11 of us, and I think at the table up here as well. So what is an ethical will? No, I want to know, what is it? I'm just... An ethical will is something that gives you the why. You can divide the stuff with the documents, but it doesn't tell you why we've done what we've done. Ours is presently 19 pages and in badly needing of updated because it's been about 5 or 6 years, so our daughters are now 5 or 6 years older. But it tells whoever was going to take care of our children why we've raised them the way we have, what we've done to do whatever and how we'd like them to be raised from here on out if you're taking care of our children. And it's an exhaustive document. I mean, we did that 4 or 5 times. We'll never need to add to that. You go back and read it, and guess what happens? Things, what? Change. So now our daughters, our one's in college, and she doesn't need to be taken care of. Well, she still does. However, she's becoming more independent, right, as we go along. But this ethical will is really designed as a document for you to put your heart into your estate plan. It tells me who you are. It tells them what you'd like. Like, you give them $1 million, and I have one client who would never, ever buy this car, ever, with his own money. He had plenty to do, but he would never buy it. As soon as his dad died, he shows up in a cherry red Mustang. Like, what? You'd never, what? Did you buy this with your dad's money? He goes, I did. He goes, what would your dad think of it? Oh, he'd roll over in his grave. But these are the little things you say. I always meant for you to buy a Ferrari with this money, or not. But in this ethical will, it gives you a chance to say, I've loved poetry. We raised you on this. This is a song I used to sing to you at night. It's just capturing memories that are really, really, really important. I'm going to call it means more than money oftentimes. To brothers, sisters, parents, nieces, nephews, kids, children. So this kind of gives you a chance to show you who you were and why, unapologetically, and why you've done what you've done, especially if you're gifting someone. So this ethical will is simply you start it. We have some different guidelines for it as well, but I promote this very, very, very heavily with my estate planning attorneys and my team and you. Show them your heart. Show them who you are and were. This is of the utmost importance to me as well. So, questions? Thoughts?
I'm just going to mention that our attorney mentioned this to us, and we were his first clients that ever did it. He suggests it to all the people he meets with. We're the first ones that took him up on it. So it's a wonderful thing to do. You include things like my favorite movie, my favorite book, the biggest challenge I had in life and how I got through it, who was my mentor, you make it what you want it to be. What do you want to share is essentially what you would include with it. Our first jobs, our favorite song, whatever. You just put in it what's meaningful, and it's going to be a blessing to loved ones who receive it.
Thank you. So we're going to have a panel now. These are actual people.
You're not?
As opposed to the beginning, okay, so they were too. But it's just more fun to say. If I was to give like a walk-up song, it'd be something with an ukulele. So just so you know, that would be seriously, it would be for our guests that we have here with us as well. But they have a few things that they can share with you that'll be pertinent to what you're doing. We're also going to allow during this portion, once they've gone, is to talk to the whole panel. If there's a question somebody can answer from the panel that's going to be helpful for you, please ask it. If you don't, I'll continue to ask questions, okay? So this is meant to be a benefit for you in a joint situation. So at this point in time, if I can maybe have everybody return to their seats, and I'll start calling out names. Mike, Mann, thank you. Excellent. I can see your name tags. Zach, thank you. Awesome, good. Appreciate you at all. So Ken and Sue have been clients for quite a while. We've had a lot of great discussions over time, but they're willing to share their experience with their significant move in their terms. So would you like to start, Sue or Ken? Ken?
Oh, I've learned.
Oh, I've learned. Yeah, he's going to let Sue start. That's lesson number 1. And Sue likes to swim.
I do. First of all, we want to thank Chris and the Gentian team for doing this again. Last year when we came, we really didn't know much. We knew that we were going to be moving. We had watched friends, church friends, school classmates, where they had health issues. They had to move. And kids were scattered around the world, couldn't come and help them. So we would help. I sat on the floor with one classmate. She was just crying. Where's my organizer? Whoa. She said, what am I going to do with all this stuff? And she was just sitting there crying. And I said, Ken, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want our kids to come back and have to do all this cleaning out, moving, making decisions. That we thought was a good gift to leave to our children, that we could do this ahead of time. So we came to this last year and listened very carefully, took notes, and we are now 9 weeks into our new home. So we did this in less than a year, which is hard to do. But we did it. We followed rules from the experts, and it helped a lot. The house was getting big. Stairs, tri-level, you expect 3 floors. We had 4 floors, so that was even more stairs. You want to travel in winter? Who's going to do the snow shoveling? Well, you hire somebody, but they may or may not come, you know, and things like that. We came home from Hawaii, our basement had flooded. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So this is why we made the decision to move. We're very happy.
I guess if she's happy, I'm happy. Gotcha.
That's number 1.
We've been married longer than they have.
Yeah, quite a bit. We've watched a lot of high school classmates who we figured out were the same age as we are. And as Susan mentioned, all of a sudden something would happen unexpectedly, a health issue on one or the other, or one slowly was failing and the other one became the caregiver. And quite honestly, their health was failing faster than the person they were trying to take care of because it was a full-time job. And after seeing enough of that, not just one occurrence, it really was the catalyst that prompted us to talk about maybe it's time, while we can enjoy this, don't force our kids to do it to us. We can pick where we're going. We can get there and meet people and develop that community relationship, so to speak, and get involved with what they're doing. And somebody, not just somebody, a lot of people say, well, don't you miss your home? Aren't you sad? No, not at all. It's a new chapter. What fun. After watching these other people, it became obvious this was the right thing to do.
I've not moved out of my home yet. I still live in it, and I still have all the stuff.
Plus a farm.
No, I'm just kind of messing with you. Some of the aspects of it that I would be concerned with is, you made the decision fairly quickly when you did, and you saw a lot of places. And I know that we had somebody from San Camillus last year, David Krill, a client of mine, great friend that for many, many years. And he was very much willing there's a second microphone now. Very much willing to share a lot that went on with it. But it can be a fairly significant investment to get in. I'm worried about all the socialization, all the people there. So how did you guys overcome that? I mean, you actually, I think, interestingly, Julie, who at Newcastle you really, really liked, helped you consider where you should be, and you chose St. Camillus, right? How did that happen?
The neat thing is, one of our stops was at Newcastle.
That's right.
And Julie, this is a sales pitch for Julie. She said right off, I'm not trying to interest you in Newcastle Place. I'm trying to help you figure out, should you do this, how to do it, and what steps you would follow in making that happen. And it was such a comfortable thing. We went back and talked with Julie with questions, and more information the better. And we started our research. And we went to, I think, 5, I don't know if you're getting it. I don't know how we got on the list. I am now off the list. You get these postcards, senior living tour, come free lunch, that kind of stuff. Well, I'm putting these in a pile. And I said, okay, let's take a look at this. And we started going through it. That was our list. And we had a wide variety. Out in the farm fields, nice places, city dwelling. Newcastle Place was high on the list. We ended up deciding we're going to try to go back to the hood. We know a lot of people there. It's kind of like if you take your parents into a setting that they don't know anybody. We kind of knew where we were headed and all the intricacies and secrets of the hood. And so we said, okay, let's narrow it down. After we did all this research. And we ended up saying in Wauwatosa, that's where we grew up. Both of us were high school sweethearts, so we've been doing this for a long time.
Awesome, super cool.
And it came down to a comfort level between two facilities. And one thing nobody talked about, they all have different activities. Some have a lot of activities, some have very few. One has a swimming pool. You kind of figure out Susan's taught swimming for 50 years. But they also have a different personality.
Yeah.
Each one has a unique personality. And you want to find one that you're comfortable with. And she's the personality expert, so I'll let her, my wife.
Okay, everybody's talked about the wait list. Julie said, get on the wait list. We saw her then again around Christmas time. Are you on a wait list? Well, by that time, we were edging that way. And we did pay to get on the wait list. It allowed us to go to the facility to tour. We could drop in 24/7. We had a name tag. All you had to do was show it to security. And nobody's mentioned that, but all these places are secure. They have security. And you have to have guests sign in, and you should wear your name tag if you don't know them. We got on the wait list, sample the food,
Dine before you sign.
sample the food, and just get comfortable with the people. We leave there smiling. Everybody is in the same boat. They didn't want to leave that home of 20, 30, 40, 50 years, but they felt it was best. And they're happy. They use canes, they use walkers, they use motorized scooters, motorized wheelchairs, but they're all happy. We went to memory care, and They thought they should be happy because we were entertaining them, but they were happy. They were smiling. So you want to get to know a little bit more than just, this is how much it costs. The rent is due on this day. You can go through Gentian and they'll put money in your account and then they just take it out.
They do, not us, they do. Yes, they pay it to them, yes, yes. So what's interesting too, and Ken will talk in a moment here, is I've got 2 clients that are residents at this San Camillus, and both of them said the same thing when they were kind of entering it, and they said it to me in a funny way. They go, Chris, this is fantastic, but I'm not sure I can live with all these old people. It was funny because none of us consider ourselves old, right? What the body shows is not how we feel inside. So it was an interesting, funny comment.
It's, I don't want to scare you, but the first time we had dinner, and the place we chose has 3 different restaurants, and they try to vary the menu, and there are days where I don't like anything or got to eat, and other days I said, we got to go back next time they have that. But I think the thing that worked is we were able to get involved, but when we had dinner, it scared the dickens out of me. You mentioned the old people. I don't know if we're the oldest here, I don't think we're older, somebody that's 100 years old. I think the cutoff point might be 60 or something.
Yeah, I think it's 60. Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Yep.
But the range of abilities of the residents. There was a gentleman eating next to us by himself, and you could see he was having declining mental abilities and cognitive and so on. And he asked for a dessert. Well, it came in one of these plastic containers that you got to open. He could not do that. And one of the wait staff, I was getting ready to get up, the wait staff beat me to it and opened it and helped him out. And that kind of made you think. And then there's a funny thing. A lot of people use their walkers, which is fine, or a cane, which is fine. But have you ever tried to walk around with a glass of wine and a walker or a cane? It seems to be a popular place with a lot of the residents at 5 o'clock to go down and get a glass of wine and chit-chat. I mean, it's a social hour thing. But then they got to take that over to where they're eating, and it's not a pretty sight. But our kids, we had our kids involved along the way, let them know why and what we're up to. And when we looked at a couple units, we took our one son who's local along. And the first one we looked at, Susan and I looked at each other, no, I don't think this is good. I gave him 3 floor plans that we would be happy with. And we kind of said no, and our son said, Dad, no, that's not going to work. So we kept them involved and up to date, so they knew what was going on. And we just kind of worked our way through that rapidly, not knowing when the call would come. We got another one coming up that you might be interested in. And we walked in the door to that one, and we both looked at each other. I think we were like 5 feet inside the door. Oh, this is it, right away, sign it up, put her name on there, how much do I owe you? So that worked out, and I don't want to take time away from you guys, but I think it wasn't emphasized enough as you start your research, and we had gone through some of these, and we knew what the prices were. First thing we did is call those guys, Chris and Company, and said, can we afford to do this?
Yeah.
And they've got a software program that they can run different scenarios.
Right.
You can assume you're going to live 5 years or 20 years or be 150, whatever. And here's your resources, and let's look at different inflation rates. And let's see now what would be the cost at this facility versus that facility, and what's left when dust all settles. And that gave us the comfort when we said, yes, this is the one. I slept well that night. I didn't worry about it.
And because of its personality, we call it home. It's really, really easy to do. So
That's
it's a
awesome.
nice trick.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you about that because you've got some strong children, I know. I've met. I know. And there's sometimes some conflict with children going, that's not for you, that is for you. But that, it sounds like you got over as well. And then I think the question is, now you've been there for 9 weeks. How are you feeling so far? You're saying it's feeling like home.
It is home.
Good, that's awesome.
It is home. We try to sit with different people at dinner so that even though we do know one
Yeah.
of your clients,
Yeah.
we don't sit with him. We want to meet other people. Get to know others.
Yes.
I was walking down the hall, Chris mentioned ukulele. We learned how in Hawaii. We love it. I heard this music from a room. It wasn't on the calendar that they were having practice. And I walked in and the director said, "Oh, hi, welcome." And I said, "We're new, we're really new." And somehow or another, she got our room number, and within 2 hours, we had a song book. So we could come to practice the next week. And that's when we took this tour over to memory care, and we're even putting on a show in a couple of weeks. No, it could be hard to do. I do want to thank declutterers and real estate. It worked out well for us. We found, in fact, I think our realtor had some of the same notes. And as far as the decluttering and the moving, they help you. They help you. They take away some of the emotion. They've done it a lot of times. I had a plant that I wanted in that corner, and the girl who was helping move said, "I made an executive decision. I think it should be in this corner." It was perfect. It has not moved. She knew what she was doing. So, there is help. Find them.
Yeah.
You want to talk more?
Yeah.
I talk more, yeah. You brought up decluttering, and over some of our speakers said that's really a hard job. Only if you let it. It was a piece of cake. We had 3 levels. Start with the low-hanging fruit. The obvious stuff. We haven't used this for 5 years. It's got more dust over it. It's in the basement somewhere in a corner, probably getting out. We're on first names with Goodwill, Habitat for Humanity,
Restore, yeah. St. Vincent de Paul.
Yeah, St. Vincent's,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the
Salvation Army.
consignment shop
Oh, yeah.
on Burleigh.
Yeah.
But we'd be there every morning. We'd spend like an hour or 2 a day at the second level. That's kind of like, okay, I got to think about it, but okay, out, or we got to keep that. And we'd take a load off every day over to Goodwill or one of those places, and the house kept getting emptier. We divided it up. She took care of the bedrooms, and I didn't get in the way. I know that. But she'd ask questions, and I'd be around. And I was in the garage and the basement where all that other moldy stuff is, doing that kind of stuff. And so it just slowly, each of the piles went down. We got close to the, oh my God, this is serious stuff. What are we going to do with this? Or do the kids want it? Each of our kids have a box. It's a different box every time, because when they show up, there's stuff in it, and we say, take that home, it's yours, you can do whatever you want. And some said, hey, here's some neat stuff in here. Others said, I don't want anything to do with that. No big deal. We didn't have to worry about it. It was out of the house.
Yep.
So it made it really was simple, but start now. Today. You're not going to hurt anything by starting now, and you're slowly going to weed through the low-hanging fruit. And then next day, maybe an hour, 2 hours, you got another bundle to worry about.
So how much fruit did you have in your house? Is that, I'm just messing with you. Yeah. Is it low-hanging fruit in the house? That says something. Anyway, so there was a good story that was told here to me at the break as well. So one of my clients, you don't mind if I bring your names up, I will, Dick and Kathy. I heard that Dick was saying, hey, you know, Kathy, you got a lot of stuff in the house. I'm going to get a dumpster, and I'm going to get rid of all that stuff. And she says, you know what she said? She said, okay, that's fair enough. And then if that's true, then I'm getting rid of a dumpster and I'm taking it to your shop. The conversation stopped. So there was a way for that to occur as well, but it is an interesting one for the decluttering side of the equation. I think what Deb had found, she's got 8 brothers and sisters, is that there's so many memories with like that lamp or this. Now, the thing that helps with her mom and dad, they've lived in the same house for 53 years, 51 years, and they have not redecorated ever or moved the furniture. So it is literally a postage picture of what it was 51 years ago. So when she goes, do you want that chair? There's no question of what that chair is. It's been there for 51 years.
And the answer is no.
And the answer is no. So we got 1 minute. Do you want to add anything? Okay, sweet. So now what I want to do is open up for questions. So this has hopefully been helpful, but thank you for sharing tremendously, because to see somebody come from the workshop last year, there's another couple. So we've got another couples that have moved in to 3 or 4 facilities. One has decided maybe to go to, and they've decided to stay at home. Another one really loved us and decided to move to Virginia. So but they've always wanted to, and that's the cool thing. They had these big homes in Brookfield and said, the home's becoming bigger. And I'm like, what do you mean it's getting bigger? The home is getting bigger, Chris, a bigger issue, bigger things going on. So they decided just to reduce that in their bigger picture. So at any rate, what kind of questions do you guys have? First, before I even ask that, has this been helpful? Raise your hand if it's been helpful. Good, I appreciate that. Thank you, good. What kind of questions do you guys have before Deb makes this comment? Yeah, just.
Were there any unexpected costs that you didn't anticipate, or maybe some things cost more than you anticipated when you moved to St. Camillus?
Were there any unexpected costs when you went to St. Camillus?
If I'd have read the fine print, we got the contract right away before we made any decisions. Read through that, legalese and everything else. I would say there were a couple, like parking, underground parking was not included in your fee. But turns out it was dirt cheap. So I said, okay, well, she's got a car, I got a car. We'll put my car. Her car stays up on top.
For easier access, right? Yes, exactly. I know.
I think that besides the cost, we couldn't have done this without one of these moving management services. They showed up the day before, they packed everything up. The next day the moving truck was there, they unpacked everything and put it through a floor plan. There was a cost of the people at the end. Whatever was left, they were going to take care of it. And you know what that probably meant, going in a truck into a dumpster somewhere. That was an extra cost that I didn't anticipate, but it wasn't an overwhelming cost. That was it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's an interesting question, I think, as well. Another thing that some people have done, if you're technology savvy, if you like technology, you can actually download the entire contract into chat.gpt and ask it the question, what expenses might be in here that I haven't seen? And it actually will read the whole contract and it'll tell you. So if you want, there's some experts out there that if you don't want to spend 45 pages of reading, you look at it and it might identify some things that you could find as well. That's from some new age people, our younger advisors. They bring this stuff up. Did you say that?
One thing I don't believe we mentioned is that Chris's mom found a facility in Iowa where she can pay a gym membership and she goes there to do her exercise. So it's neat. She likes it, I think, better than the YMCA. She's meeting people that way. Will she choose to move there someday? We don't know, but what a neat way to kind of get a feel for a place. I don't know if places in your community offer that, but again, another way to test a place out.
Yeah, I guess that's what dine before you sign. It can be gym before your whim. I don't know. Anyway, just thinking, sorry. Other questions? Yeah, Joanna.
Did you have any surprises once you got there?
Any surprises once you got there?
Any surprises? I don't think so.
I can't say, because we did the sign-up list, we had to pay $3,000 or whatever to be on the wait list.
Yes.
And it kind of gives you a priority over people that didn't pay anything and say, we want to move here. But I don't think anything surprised us, because we had been there participating in events and so on. They had a Tai Chi class. I got to know all those people, things like that. We got to eat, so we understood what that was. I think the only surprise, maybe there is one surprise, we talk about it all the time. The hallways are unbelievably quiet. You don't see the residents walking in and out of their doors or between units or anything like that. You see them downstairs in the main areas. There's a 9 o'clock in the morning, there's a coffee group for newcomers. We went to one of those. There was a guy there for the last 3 years has been going to the newcomers' coffee. Because he loved meeting all the newcomers.
And coffee.
But aside from quiet hallways without a whole lot of foot traffic, and the experience I kind of shared about seeing people in different states of failing health, I guess I call it, either physically or cognitively, it kind of sent a little shiver up to us. But then as we watched how the servers and that one guy helped another person, got over that pretty fast. But it's a fact of life, and I'd rather be there where I can have fun as being the last guy in and trying to figure out how I'm going to survive.
Yeah, I love that as well. So we literally have more events. I tell people at other firms what we do and they almost freak out, but that's what they do. So these two are absolutely special. Our whole team is absolutely special. But I say when you come to these, there's a lot of planning. They try to think of everything ahead of time. So, and they've done a great job of it. So I just want to make sure that we give them the gratitude that they also deserve too. So for those of our panelists that need to leave, great. But for those who can engage, please feel free to engage. I enjoy seeing every one of your smiling faces here. To me, I love this. I just look at the day and smile, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Also, thank you for the people you introduced to us. When you see an award for this firm, it's yours. This is your award in Barron's and the Wall Street Journal. So this is yours. I want to make sure you know why that is there. Because of this. We get together and help each other. This is why you guys win the awards and you're in magazines. We're part of a collective and a home and a team and a movement. We want to continue with that. So thank you for introducing and bringing people in. Thank you also for screening people out before they come in. It's a two-way street. But hope you enjoyed today. Enjoy whatever resources you can take in now as well. Enjoy. Thank you very much.